All right, we are rolling, Andre.
Okay, well, welcome everyone to tonight's Amherst Conservation Commission meeting. Today is December 17th, 2025, and it's around 7 p.m. We have six of our seven commissioners present, as well as Aaron Jack and Dave Zomek for the town. Um, I think we'll start with a quick chairs report. There's not a lot to talk about other than the fact that we are still in a mild drought, and it's been running for almost a couple months, I think. So yeah, we're coming off of a fairly long drought here. Um, I think that's it for right now. We've got more on the drought later on. With that, I'll turn it over to Dave Zomek for Dave's director's report.
Sure, thanks, Andre. I'll be pretty brief, just because I know you've got a full agenda. Just a couple of quick updates for the commission. Kind of as we end 2025. It's still a busy time of year for us. We're trying to wrap up a number of things and then get ready to kick things off in 26. But the CPAC process is well underway. As you know, Jason is your representative to the CPAC, and there's 16 projects, and the CPAC is working their way through presentations. Tomorrow night will be the last night of presentations, and then they'll kick off January, deliberating, ranking the proposals, asking any last minute questions of applicants. As you know, we have the town has a number of projects applications before them, but two of them through conservation. One is for trails and bridges and ADA work on our trails. The other is for additional money for signs. The town is also kicking off in the theme of budgets. The town is also kicking off the budget season. I'll be working with staff and other department heads on capital budgets and operating budgets for FY27. This is a long process that starts now and goes all the way through June when the town council approves the budget for the town. So we'll keep you posted on that. We're actually doing quite a bit of late season mowing right now. The conditions have been excellent up until the next 48 hours, when they will not be excellent any longer when we get rain and thawing temperatures. But Brad and Anthony have been out and mowing down some early successional fields at Mount Pollux, Wentworth Farm, Westover Meadow, etc. So they're continuing to work out there now that some of those terrestrial turtles and other species have either migrated or are hunkered down for the winter months during closer to wetlands or in wetlands and rivers and streams. We're also working pretty hard with PVPC on the MVP grant for culvert assessment. Aaron and Bruce is playing a role as you know in this process. So excited to be moving that forward, and certainly Aaron will keep you all apprised of next steps in that process. We're also meeting with the MVP staff. We're always trying to think about what is the next step, what is the next round of funding. So DPW staff and Aaron and myself will be meeting with the MVP team to talk about the next round of what do we want to tee up for the next round of applications that the town can get into the state for MVP grants. And these typically fall in the category of culvert replacements and stream crossings and things of that nature. So Puffer's Pond may be in that mix as well. I don't want to take too much more time. There's lots more things happening, but I think I'll stop. We're certainly during January going to be refocusing on kind of water quality issues in Puffer's Pond. We're also talking to the Conway School of Design about a possible project utilizing the wonderful students from Conway. And right now, our focus is talking with them about Lawrence Swamp and really kind of getting a better handle. Again, a collaborative project with DPW, getting a better handle on conservation land and water supply protection land in Lawrence Swamp. So we'll have more on that in January. So I think I'll stop. lots more happening, but we're hopefully going to dial it back a little bit for the holidays, give staff a much deserved rest, and come back strong in January.
Can you, for the public on the line, say what MVP is?
That's the Mass Vulnerability Program. So Municipal Vulnerability Program. So it is a state program that all cities and towns are, if they meet certain criteria, eligible to apply for funding to help match capital funds and other funds. But it looks at, how the municipality is vulnerable to flooding. Does Amherst or, other towns we're working with have culverts that are undersized or crushed or underperforming, collapsed, etc. That's one use of those funds. And then there are other programs looking at buildings and energy and things of that sort.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dave. Does sound like the staff really did earn their relaxing time now at the end of the year
Yeah,
until
it's nice. It's Aaron, it's Stephanie Ciccarello and Beth Wilson, a lot of the names that you hear and our planning staff. I would also just announce real quickly that we do have a new planning and economic development director. His name is Jeff Bagg. He used to be a planner, a senior planner with the town, and he just joined us 2 weeks ago. You've probably seen some of the press, and he's making the rounds and meeting some people he hasn't met and reacquainting himself with projects. But Jeff is going to be a wonderful staff person for all of us to work with, and you'll be hearing more about Jeff in the weeks and months ahead.
wonderful. Thank you. With that, we will have a brief discussion of the drought status, which I've mentioned before. Aaron, was there anything that you'd like to add to the status of the draft?
Relative to the uh wetland delineations.
No, I am gonna mention that. We may as well just get into that. Right now, the way that we have right now a drought, as well as the fact that we're in the middle of the winter and we have snow cover. It's extremely difficult to make uh, delineations of wetlands, and I would like to throw out to put out for discussion, brief discussion, that we should hold off on any further wetland delineations until, because of the seasonal dry conditions and the snow cover and the lack of indicator plants available right now, that we should leave any further wetland delineations until the growing season in the spring, when we're out of the drought, according to the state. Aaron, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's been extremely challenging. I think from my perspective well, as we come into the winter, applicants sort of asking how are we dealing with these situations? And if we don't have hydrologic indicators as a result of not having enough precipitation, and we have had a hard frost at this point, frozen conditions and snow cover, we're basically relying on soils, and it becomes really difficult to conduct delineation solely based on soil. So I think it would be prudent from this point forward until we have the drought declaration lifted, and or until we're sort of back into the growing season, that it might be a good idea to hold off on for future applications um, until we have conditions that are a little bit better for review.
All right. Well, thank you. Now for the commissioners, is there any comments on this? Anyone who may disagree or other thoughts? Rachel, please.
I had a procedural question. Say we're not reviewing delineations, and someone applies with, say, an RDA, which may not be the best way to confirm a delineation that has to be approved within 21 days. Could they appeal and go to DEP instead of going through our town process?
We have the state and in our bylaw, we have provisions for wintertime delineation. So the commission does have the ability or the regulatory ability to not move forward with confirmation of resource area boundaries. I mean, I think we have to handle it to some degree on a case by case basis when applications come in. But in general, I think there are policies and guidance outlined for this exact scenario. So,
Okay, great.
Yeah, and I'll add, I'll reemphasize what you just said, Aaron. In general, what we're looking to do is, in general, not put those off until the time that we can make that determination ourselves as well. But yeah, we need to view if there are some cases that must be seen, then we can deal with them individually. Carol.
Well, I was going to ask if that was something that could be handled when they're revisiting the bylaws and regulations in the spring, but you say it's really already in there, Erin, is that correct?
yeah, I mean, we have some provisions for winter delineation. I think the issue with the drought is another matter, which I think would not be a bad idea to incorporate some provision for under our bylaw, to have an actual policy outlined of how we deal with delineations in that case, because there is a lot of gray area with the regulations for drought.
Because
I think that's a great idea.
it does seem to come up.
Yeah.
So there's something to make a note of, Carol, and when we do start to discuss the bylaws, you can put that in there. I made a little note too, but I forget things. It's not a bad, it's actually a pretty good segue into land management updates. As you all know, over the last, I would say 4 years, the town's bylaws have been updated, and to the point where last year was, I believe, about a 1 year, the end of a 1 year, one and a half year stint that we had a subcommittee working diligently on updating all these bylaws. So we have these bylaws that were then voted on partially last year. What we're needing to do now is do a final review of them and go ahead and approve them. We have had one of our, so most of us, those of us who've been here for a while, have already made comments and reviewed these. But for our newer commissioners, we'd like whatever input you can give us, and we already have some input from one of you. Please take the time, if you haven't had the time yet, to review those bylaws, which happen to be in with our documents. Is there anything else that I'm missing on the bylaws?
So we did receive comments on the policy land use policy regulation from Tina, which I put in our packets this week. I think one of the big questions from staff are um, because we had discussed having a hearing in January, and I guess I'd like a little bit of guidance in terms of scheduling that because we're fast approaching our first meeting in January, and just these additional comments which have come in, how we'd like to handle those. Do we want to handle those in a regular session prior to going to hearing, or do we want to schedule the hearing and discuss additional changes in the hearing process?
So I have made some notes on this, and I have a couple of suggestions that I'll throw out, and then we'll go to Bruce. Real quick, I was thinking that we could probably for the second meeting in January have that as a final date for people to submit their for commissioners to submit their comments. Give it another 2 weeks or until the next meeting after that, and then I think at that point, what we should probably do, my suggestion would be to have a meeting specific to the regulations. So I'll throw that out and pass it over to Bruce.
Just to be clear, we're looking at the land use policy and regulations. We're not intending to change the bylaw at this time. I heard the word bylaw go by, and I just want to make sure it's the policy and regulations.
Sure. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
It's frankly, yeah. Got it. Jason.
Yeah, so I think Andre partially answered my questions, just how we're supposed to how do we want to get comments to you, or to everybody? And I don't know if we necessarily should have a full meeting dedicated to this, but certainly it should be an agenda item on a meeting, I would think, kind of later January or maybe even February.
What if what is your thought? What are your thoughts, Jason, on perhaps having the comments put on to having the comments uploaded by the second January meeting?
I mean, I think that's reasonable. I've made a few. I have like via the document in there, like track changes. Um, and I don't, I'm working on a Mac. I don't know if they're produced on a PC and how that is gonna actually uh come across in each version. But do we want to just do one track changes, or is someone
Yeah,
gonna compile all this?
my suggestion would be that each one of us have our own document. We get them all to Aaron, and Aaron puts them all together into the packet, because what I don't want to see is a document that's changed and changed and changed, and we don't have copies of the interim documents. So we need to be able to show kind of the paper trail or the evolution of our documents, because they are part of our discussions. Aaron?
So I would just, I guess, putting this contextually that we've been reviewing this for 4.5 years and this is like their final version. So I don't want to go back into a full-scale review. I think what I would ask commissioners to do is look at this with an eye for really critical changes that need to be made that could be impactful to correcting a problem that exists. The other thing I would like to, so I think it's great that we have iterations with people's comments on them. My suggestion would be that we come into a meeting with this on an agenda item with a significant amount of time dedicated to it. If we're going to go through the document, it's not super long. and go sort of page by page, and anybody who has a comment on that page submits their comment, the commission discusses it, and we move to the next, rather than working off a track change document with 15 people's comments on it. I think just in terms of staff time, trying to collate those and also tracking everybody's comments. I think we just need to come to the table with our markups and go through it and sort of come to consensus. Are we going to change this? Are we not going to change this? And then move on and try to be really expeditious about how we wrap this up, because we're sort of at the end with it. And I
Yeah.
think it's awesome to have some additional expert perspective from our new members on it. Absolutely. I just want to make sure that we're cautious about not reopening the whole document again.
I'm in full agreement, and I was kind of thinking of each one of us having our own document. If we all bring them to a meeting, I think that's great too. And we just live, we do it live and we go page by page. I think that's a great idea, Aaron.
So should we?
Okay, Rachel.
Yeah, I was doing another read through and noticing that there are many pieces that are like truncated references, where, when it says in the document, add this or find this definition. So there may be more than us providing comments and responding to what's there. There may be some need to generate information. And I don't know if that's something that the town can help us with, or if that's something that we need to be tasked with to help to clarify that and as we review this.
Yeah, there's definitely some administrative, sort of last minute administrative things that need to happen with the document. I think the main thing is getting it so it's in its finished draft form, and then we can sort of finalize it and get it so that we can post it for public review before a hearing. So do you think that commissioners could be ready by the second meeting in January with their markups, and we could dedicate maybe an hour or two of a meeting to going through it as a work session type um, item, and then uh, once that's completed and we have sort of some additional adjustments made, I could take another pass to make sure all of the all the references that Rachel is referring to as far as definitions and appendices and stuff like that are all in line and in sort of a finished document ready to go for a public hearing, and we can schedule that once that's completed.
I think that sounds good.
Okay.
So by what's the date of our second meeting in January?
That is a great question. Let's see. It'd be the 14th, or I'm sorry, the 28th.
Okay, so January 28th, we will all have our revisions ready to go. And we will be discussing them January 28th, right? Okay. Carol?
If we have any additions to make or suggestions, that has to be in by when?
You have to have them with you when
On
we
the
have
28th.
our January 28th meeting.
Oh, okay.
You just bring that. We won't be doing what I had suggested earlier of submitting them to Aaron for Aaron to give to us. We'll just bring our own things and discuss them openly in the January 28th meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so agreed. Land use applications, unless there's anything else on land management updates.
We do not have any land use applications tonight.
All right, very good. All right, so we are on now for an informal discussion, Aaron, with Aaron Tria.
Yes. So I'm going to pull Aaron in as a panelist.
So hello. Well, I'm Aaron Treehub, and thank you for making time for this issue at this meeting. I'm going to be talking about a Farview Way neighborhood and an erosion problem that we've had in that neighborhood for a number of years. I do have a slideshow, but I know we're limited to 15 minutes, so I'm going to try to get through it very, very quickly, and I'm going to skip a lot of things. Aaron, should I share my screen at this point?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, hang on just a moment. Okay. I'm sharing. All right. Let me go to, there we go. Okay. So, I know you should have received a background document about this. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the background. I'm just going to introduce myself briefly. I'm an Amherst native, grew up in town, went to public schools. My parents moved to Amherst in 1954, so there have been tree hubs in Amherst since, well, then, 71 years. Worked as an academic librarian at the University of Illinois and Auburn University in Alabama, retired from Auburn last year. I'm still currently living in Alabama, but I'm fixing up the Amherst house and, as you can see, getting more involved in Amherst town affairs. So, how we got here this evening. In October 2024, some UMass planning representatives had an open meeting with residents of the Farview Way neighborhood to discuss UMass development projects, construction, and how those were going to impact the neighborhood. At that time, I was asked by some of my fellow residents to raise the issue of the brook and the erosion. I did at that meeting. Had some follow-up correspondence with UMass representatives. They directed me to Town of Amherst DPW. DPW referred me to the Conservation Department and eventually to the Conservation Agent, Aaron. So we had a number of conversations with Aaron Jacques at the end of last year, beginning of this year, culminating in this invitation to present to the Concom. With an on-site visit by Aaron in July of this year. So I assume I don't have to really explain where the Farview Way neighborhood is. It's immediately to the north of the UMass campus. It's bounded on the north, sort of by the presidential apartments, to the south by Governor's Drive, east North Pleasant Street, and to the west by some meadowland and what is that, North Village Drive and Route 116. Something about the history of the development of the neighborhood basically took off after World War II in terms of housing construction, sort of paralleled the expansion of the university after the war. And here's a list of some of the UMass construction that took place, is still taking place in the form of the School of Public Health right next to our neighborhood. The main point here is that as UMass, built areas that were previously meadowland or fields, forested areas were replaced by obviously buildings and other impervious surfaces like parking lots and walkways, and more recently, solar arrays. So that has been the main, I think, factor behind some of the problems we're seeing. Anyway, brief information about wetlands and streams in the neighborhood. I'm going to be focusing on one particular stream, a brook. I call it the South North Brook. As far as I know, it does not have a formal name. So this is it. And this is an aerial photograph from 1956. I've circled the area of the brook. Marks Meadow School is not there. Totman Gym is not there. Sylvan is not there. None of the buildings that came along in the late 50s and later are there. It's all meadowland. And I think you can see the brook originating in what used to be Totman Meadow, where Totman Phys Ed is now, and actually where the School of Public Health will be. And it flows north, northwest, crosses under North Pleasant Street, sort of where Marks Meadow School, Furcolo is now, and then flows northwest through the Farview Way neighborhood, which at that time was relatively undeveloped. The interesting thing here is if you look in the upper left-hand area of the circled portion, you can see that there are actually some pools or looks like small ponds where the stream um, actually, was able to collect and had some watershed areas. So that's 1956. So in the late 1950s, with the construction of Totman and with the construction of Marks Meadow and with increased housing construction in the neighborhood, the brook was covered over. And it was channelized. And this, of course, all took place before the Wetlands Protection Act, so it wasn't really discussed or it wasn't an issue as far as I know. And around this time, the brook was also routed through a second culvert right under Berkshire and emerging on the north side of Berkshire Terrace and then flowing uncovered through the neighborhood out into a marshland just south of the presidential apartments. At this time, we also saw that it was receiving more runoff from the university, and the volume and velocity of the stream increased over the years. So when I was growing up on Farview Way, the brook was a relatively narrow stream, fairly shallow, with sloping banks that allowed children to approach it because we played in it. It was a playground. But that started to change, I'd say, in the 1980s, 1990s. It really, the flow increased. We saw more problems with erosion, undercutting large trees along the banks of the brook. I think I provided in the background document some correspondence or a Concom meeting minutes dealing with one of the issues caused by the brook's erosion, that is large trees being undercut and falling over. That happened to my parents in 2001. A large tree fell across the brook into their backyard. And that incident was addressed by Concom in 2002, early 2002, but no action at that time was taken. So pictures are better than words in a way. So here, and I apologize, in the first version of this, I misdated these photographs. This is a Dorico family photograph. They're our neighbors on Farview Way. And I originally said this was from the 70s. It's from the late 1990s. A member of the family informed me. But this is a stretch of the brook at that time. You can see the banks are fairly gradual. They slope down to the stream such that children could play. That's one view. I think that's looking south. Here's another view looking north, basically the same point of view. The house in the background in the upper left-hand corner is 159 Farview Way. That's the house that's next to 145, which is my property. So this is all from the 1990s. So here are some photos from the same location, looking south. You can see it's now a ravine. And this is typical of the course of the brook through the neighborhood. It's become a steep ravine with abrupt banks. There's another view of it. And this is when the brook is relatively quiet. So here's from the same point of view looking north, you can see it's a big sort of trench now, a lot of exposed tree roots, and also some outbuildings that are being threatened by it. So here's a video of So that's an example of the brook's flow after a rainstorm. Not a torrential rain, but rain. And after heavier rainstorms, residents have actually spoken of seeing the brook crest over its banks. So some recent developments. You were talking earlier about culvert work. Well, the outflow end of the culvert under Berkshire Terrace is cracked. A resident showed me that a few weeks ago. We suspect there may be other culvert problems upstream. There were some sinkholes that appeared in properties on the western side of Farview Way, just across from Ferkelo. And recently, when we were sort of walking the course of the brook, we could see that erosion is now threatening a detached garage at one of the North Pleasant properties. It's sort of set in from the road, and also the foundations of houses at 13 Berkshire Terrace and 159 Farview Way. So to sum up, 70 years ago, it was a naturally free-flowing stream, had overflow capacity, gradually sloping banks. Over time, it appears to have become part of the stormwater drainage system for the northeastern part of the UMass campus. We've seen the volume and velocity of its flow increase, sort of in pace with the university's northward development, and the replacement of watershed areas with impervious surfaces. It's washed away property, it's undermined large trees, it's altering property lines, and it's now threatening outbuildings and foundations. The steep banks, which I mentioned earlier, are a safety hazard. The neighborhood has a number of rental properties occupied by students. Those students invite their friends over, they have parties. I'm concerned that somebody is going to wander into the backyard and fall. So some of us have put up security barriers to try to prevent that. So these are just some suggested action items. I don't know if I'm out of line on any of them, but they seem to me sort of rational first steps in trying to address this issue. Perhaps commission a formal study. I don't think that's ever been done in reference to this particular stream. What I'm particularly interested in is exploring practical options for mitigation or remediation within the framework of the Wetlands Protection Act with cost estimates. And possibly even form a small working group to look at wetlands issues more generally in North Amherst. I know there are a lot of conversations going on about development in North Amherst, and I think this is an important part of that. That is basically my spiel. I've got my contact information there, and I'll make sure that Aaron Jacques has a copy of this slideshow, so you can all consult it at your convenience. The only other things are some appendices with topographical maps showing the brook over time. There's one photograph I'd like to dwell on again. That's the 1956 aerial photograph. And this is a Kodachrome slide that was actually taken by my father in October 1954 of the stream at what I think was probably just north of Berkshire Terrace, looking north-northwest, judging by the sunset. So that shows you what the stream looked like in 1954 before it was covered over and channelized. And then there are some other aerial photographs over the years up to 2023. You can see the growth in construction at that end of the UMass campus. And then finally, more recent photographs from just this time last year, and then from this summer, and the video. So I'm going to end it there, Aaron. I hope I've stayed within the 15-minute limit, and I can stop sharing, or you can stop sharing for me.
Well, thank you, Aaron. I'm sure that there could be some questions here. I do have one question. I'm kind of curious. Have you figured a a pathway to fund work on the stream? I know you made a suggestion in there, but I'm curious what other.
Okay. Well, I've spoken with Aaron Jacques about this. the residents themselves have been prevented or advised not to not to explore remediation on their own since it's a protected area, it's a wetland. So there's really nothing that we could do individually. If you would like to hear my ideal solution, it would be sort of a combined, collaborative, practical approach by the town, the university, and the residents to come up with a mitigation plan. And I've told Aaron, if that involves cost to the residents, that's certainly something that I personally would be willing to entertain. But my hope is that we can actually start addressing the problem in a practical, collaborative way. It's been going on for a long time. I shared with you the minutes of the CONCOM meeting from 2002. Based on my own family's files, I think that my parents alerted the town to the problem as early as the mid-1990s. So I just like to see a practical solution. I'm not interested in pointing fingers. I just would like to get the problem fixed.
Sounds good. Thank you, Aaron. Bruce.
So I can think of two, a short-term and a medium-term idea, two of them. One is, and both of them got mentioned earlier in the meeting. So one is the MVP culvert assessment. So at a minimum, we could try to get the culvert assessors to look at the culverts and just know what the assessment is. And the reason, Mr. Triev, that's important is because then that assessment information would go into a regional database that influences how the states actually prioritize their spending. And so making sure that the culverts are in this database is a pretty important, relatively, within a year, maybe could get done. And I'm the Amherst liaison to this project, so I can encourage the managers to try to at least put that on their list and make sure that it's as high a priority as they can make it. That's part one. Part two is this is like almost a perfect example of the kind of project Conway School of Landscape Design graduate students would do. And being the former executive of the school, I have some way to talk to the school about would they be interested in at least considering this as a project. I could get the project organizer to talk to you, and we could see whether it met the criteria of the school and the needs of the neighborhood. So I'm willing to do both of those things.
Both of those would be great. I think, a culvert assessment is long overdue based on what I saw of what I could see of the culvert on the north side of Berkshire Terrace. I don't know exactly how long it's been there, but it's not in good shape.
Right.
And then involving the Conway School would be wonderful.
Okay.
I think would be
I'll take those up. We'll work offline to let you know what progress I've made.
Okay. Well, thank you.
These are great suggestions, Bruce. You're the man with the connections. And Rachel has some more.
Related to that, I'm wondering if the University of Massachusetts Civil Engineering Department might be a good partner with the Conway School on the study. This type of project would benefit from some hydrological modeling, some pipe flow analysis also to see if obviously it looks like we're having erosion in the stream course bed, but to quantify that to know how significant of intervention is needed and what our options are there with the Conway School could be really a beneficial thing if they were up for it. I don't know.
There are a few examples of joint ventures between Conway and UMass departments, so there is a precedent for it.
Dave?
Yeah, no, I think these are all great ideas, possible project ideas. I do just want to point out that this is representative of a larger problem that we're seeing in Amherst and throughout, New England, which is, climate change affecting runoff, development affecting runoff, as the PowerPoint went on, I thought of all the images in my head and many of these site visits I've done with Aaron, that we have this same issue along the Fearing Brook, the Tan Brook, the Plum Brook. So this is kind of representative of issues we have all over town, and a developing town with a big university and more frequent and intense storms. So I think it'd be interesting to do this study and perhaps get Conway involved. But I also wanted to point out that from a staff standpoint, we have heard very similar stories and concerns about, I can think of a few places along the Tan and the Fearing where the exact same thing is happening. So we may want to look farther afield too, and look at some of these other water courses that are really urban streams now. They were once rural, but they are urban rivers now. So thanks.
Goes to show the importance of what we're doing. Thanks, Dave. Jason.
Thanks, Andre. Yeah, I was just going to say that it shows the importance of this post-construction stormwater management, especially when you put in all this impervious surface. Really would love to see Amherst become a sponge city, similar to much larger cities, but not, I say city in the informal colloquial way. Sponge, small Western New England town. But is this something, Dave, and this is more just kind of a question because the topic of funding has come up. This particular stretch of Pleasant Street there, is it? North Pleasant Street? It seems like it would be a great stretch for a complete streets overhaul. And I know there's some grant funding available. But I'm not sure necessarily how some of this potential stormwater would play into it. But is this something that are you aware of? Could a complete streets grant also help to address some of the stormwater issues aside from safety and like bike travel and alternative modes of transportation?
It's a great question, Jason. I'm just not sure. Certainly, complete streets include, green buffers, between and among sidewalks and bike lanes and safe passage for vehicles and bicyclists and pedestrians. But I'm not sure if this kind of mitigation is part of that. But it's certainly something we can look into. There will be a new
with the increased with like the North Village apartments and Puffton Village and all of that stuff, and concerns about traffic. I would think that this stretch of Pleasant Street is just certainly ripe for that kind of overhaul. And if you're going to overhaul street, it really makes a whole lot of sense to overhaul the drainage under the street while you're doing it.
Yeah, no, I think we can look at that. I think to Rachel's point earlier, to address this problem, you also have to do that analysis looking farther up in the watershed to see what's happening up there. And we know there has been, as Aaron has pointed out, there's been a lot of development upstream in this watershed in the last 20 to 30 years. So, but yeah, I think that could be all part of the Conway project as well. But
yeah,
okay. Thanks. I think what we're going to do here is
what is complete streets?
Wait a minute. We're going to wrap up this part of the of this discussion, and we can take the rest offline, Bruce, with Aaron or anyone who wants to talk to Bruce about it. But Carol, go ahead and
I don't know what complete streets means.
I'm sorry?
Complete streets. What's that?
The grant program.
Well, it's a planning term that really refers to planning and constructing streets so that there is safe passage for vehicles, pedestrians, and bicyclists. So it's a combination of different elements of planning and construction that allow for all of those to take place in a safe way.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, Aaron. And I hope that this has been a start a good start, and best of luck, and we'll probably be talking in the future.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much, Andre.
You're
This
welcome.
is exactly what I was hoping might come out of this. So yes, I would be happy to follow up with any of the members on the ideas that have been presented. As I said, my goal is to simply find a practical working solution to this. And if it fits in with other things that the town is doing, that's great. So,
Hope so. Yeah. Well, thanks.
okay,
And Bruce will be in touch with you, I'm sure. There you go. He's got given the
thank
thumbs
you.
up. Thank you again.
Yep.
Okay. We are now we're now moving into our public hearings. And let me find my slide here real quick. So we have 3 hearings for tonight. If you don't mind, Aaron, putting up the slide on the on hearings for general procedures. We have 20 dedicated minutes to the to each hearing, with 5 minutes first for the applicant or the applicant's representative, followed by 5 minutes for staff to comment, 5 minutes for the public to comment, or 2 minutes per person. And then 5 minutes per commissioner who would like to do that. Now, for anyone who's presenting, please just clearly state your name, where the project is, and who you're representing. If you have any preferred pronouns, please request those, or say what they are. Members of the public, please give us your address and your name, and any preferred pronouns. When you do want to speak, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand, and I'll be calling on you one by one as I see the hands raised. And with that, we're going to move into our very first hearing. This is not the first hearing on it, so we're not opening on it. This is an ANRAD, or abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. Goddard Construction, on behalf of Pure Sky Development, for the confirmation of both Mass Wetland Protection Act resource area boundaries and Wetland Protection Town of Amherst General Bylaw, Article 3.31, and regulations resource area boundaries within a designated study area on the Shutesbury Road. That's map 9B Bravo, lot 11 and 12, and map 9D Delta, lot 27. Quick background. Actually, I guess we won't need to start with the background. Aaron, are the applicants here to make the presentation?
Yes, I thought I saw Steve Ribberty. I'm gonna.
Okay. Now, as you bring him up, I would like to put out for knowledge that we were that back in at the beginning or middle of November, we requested that that the applicant provide some answers and to some of the questions we had, and as well as an answer to the to a couple of surveys that were done on the property. And so far, we have not heard back, had any answers from the applicants. We did mention in our, we did take a vote that day that we would be likely making a determination on this date today. So with that, I'd like to hear from the applicants.
Yeah, well, good evening, everybody. I'm Steve Riverty, senior wetland scientist over at Goddard Consulting, working for the wetlands consultant for Pure Sky. So yeah, I'll just give you an update as to where we are. The peer reviews came back. We had two different peer reviewers that this project was put out for peer review on, and those came back, fairly recently. We have to, so there's two different peer reviews. One of the peer reviews is for the wetland line itself. The other one is an engineering peer review on the calculations to determine if there was any isolated land subject to flooding on the parcel. That's more of an engineering analysis. So both those peer reviews came back. We've presented them to Pure Sky that would need to engage the surveyor to redo some of the wetland lines. And I'll talk about that in a second. And then we would have to use them to also re-engage the engineer to answer the engineering questions. So since we had the peer review, we met with Emily Stockman, the town's hired peer reviewer in the field. All this happened after the last hearing. We went through every wetland flag on the site. We adjusted some. We made field revisions. New flags are in place in the field. We were in process of responding to her letter. We essentially agreed to all her points. So her letter is just basically going to be, we agree with this, we agree with that, and different flags that move. What needs to happen next is the relocated flags need to get surveyed and put on a revised plan. That's outside of my personal control. I have to talk to Pure Sky about doing that. And the same thing about the engineering review that came back, a little bit after Thanksgiving, and then so we have to re-engage the engineer to answer the questions from that peer reviewer. On Pure Sky's end, I think I'm the only representative on tonight, so there's nobody on from Pure Sky. There was a change in project management internally in their company. So then there's a new project manager that's getting up to speed on the project. So we just had a meeting with him the other week to kind of get him up to speed with everything that's happened and all the things that have to happen on their end. It's a little bit out of my control. I can't make the surveyor go out and survey the flags, and I can't make the engineer respond to the questions, immediately. So they know that it's important. They know that it's back on us now to respond to the two formal peer reviews that came back. So we were going to need some time to do that. And that's kind of where we're at with it. Like I said, for the wetlands, we went out with Emily, changed everything that we felt needed changing to Emily's satisfaction. That's what her letter represented. We just need to produce the plan that kind of codifies those changes in the field.
Thanks, Steve. I think I'm just going to pass for now and let the town employee, Aaron, what are your comments so far?
Well, so at the October 22nd meeting, the commission made a motion that the materials all materials from the conclusion of the peer review would need to be submitted by December 10th. Those materials, so we finished the peer review up by about the end of November, and the materials, as Steve mentioned, weren't able to get to us by the 10th. We did receive a request to continue the public hearing until January. And so I think the question before the commission tonight is how you would like to proceed. I think, the commission's in a bit of a precarious situation because of the turnover on the board, with the body being limited to 4 members out of the 7 who can vote on this, which would require an agreed vote of all 4 members on whatever decision is made. So I think it's really important that the all four committee members be on the same page with how to proceed. I did prepare a motion in the instance that you are moving to deny for lack of information. I worked with the town attorney on that, and certainly the town attorney shares some of the concerns with uh, extending this, continuing to extend it for months at a time, because it does put us at risk at this point. With only four members who can vote, two members have already each missed one meeting each. So as we move through this, if we lose a quorum, that could present a very serious issue. So that's kind of the situation that we're in tonight. And I think the commission needs to come to a decision as to how they wish to proceed.
And we're also.
Well, we are at risk.
I'm sorry.
Steve, we are at risk of losing that quorum, and
Yeah, I'm aware.
And we did make that vote, and it was fairly clear that we needed you guys we needed proper responses. But we will need to be hearing from the public here, and then the commissioners are going to be talking about it as well. Jason?
Sorry, if you want to go to the public first and then commissioner questions, I'm fine.
Okay, thank you. Steve, was there something else that you wanted to say?
I was going to say one of the other options that we've been considering too is because that there has been turnover on the commission, is withdrawing without prejudice and then resubmitting it. So we because the peer review has been completed, we'll respond to the peer review, and then it would be basically resubmitting the exact same material with the peer review already completed as a new application, and then at that point the entire board can.
Well, that's entirely up to you, Steve. We can only do what we can do. If that's something that you wanted to do, that's you're probably right to consider it.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to move to the public. Unfortunately, Aaron, I can't really operate this system that I've got right now to bring folks in from the public. So if you can, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm not seeing any hands raised from the public, Andre.
Okay, we have had some public comment in writing, and I'm hoping that everyone's had an opportunity to look at that. But
Andre,
now,
I do see a hand raised in the public.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry, Jason.
So I'm going to bear with me one second. Okay, I've just added Phil Rich. Phil, if you'd like to submit a comment.
Welcome, Phil. Please, I think we see your name, but if you can tell us your name and address. And
can you hear me?
We can. Okay. Yes.
Phil Rich, 187 Shutesbury Road in Amherst. The only reason I put my hand up is partly because nobody else put their hand up, but I'm one of the people who co-signed a document that was sent in just a couple of days ago, expressing the concerns really of the community around here, in particular, neighbors, people who live on Shutesbury Road. So I only put my hand up to note that I'm not sure who else is out there at the moment, because obviously I can't see who's participating. But there are people who are concerned listening. So we even though there may not be any comments, we're present for this. So that's all I really wanted to say. Thank you.
Well, thanks for keeping an eye on it.
Thanks.
I see a couple other hands popping up, Andre.
All right.
So I'll add Renee Moss.
Welcome, Renee. Let us know when you're
Hi.
when.
Can you hear me?
Oh, here we go.
Okay. Yeah, I, just Renee Moss, 277 Shutesbury Road. And well, first of all, one of the things I wanted to know is I was just curious as to how many people from the public are listening. Do you have?
We have 24 people in attendance from the public tonight right now.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think that, just to sort of express the concerns. Clearly, there are a lot of, people in the community who are concerned about the issues around this parcel of land. And it has been a very long time. It has taken a lot of time from that the Conservation Commission, conservation commissioners have put into this. I think it's been about 5 years back and forth with, withdrawing without prejudice and coming back and missing deadlines. And as an abutter, there's just been a lot of concern about the way in which this whole process has gone on. It just feels like too many people too involved for too long, with a lot of community concern around it. And I thank the commissioners so much for being so vigilant about this whole thing and for hanging in there. But it just feels like a long time. That's all I want to say. And again, thank you for the work you've all put into it. And I know you've all put a lot of work into this.
Thank you, Ms. Moss. Anyone else? Can't quite hear you, Aaron, but if you see someone else, please let them in.
Sorry, I just added Lenore Brick.
Hello, Lenore. Welcome.
Hi, Andrew. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah. So first, just thank you guys for your essential services. I wanted to, this is, I'm just going to, again, state the obvious as a general comment about the wisdom of this project in general. And also for the benefit of newer commissioners that haven't really been involved or following this. Some of the main concern from the community is, we're talking about this tonight. We're experiencing more drought and flooding, and woodlands are incomparable in their mitigation and restorative capacity. Aaron's story and David's point about erosion, which is among many of the problems that arise from the lack of forested and wetland areas and from overdevelopment. We're seeing it in real time. The need for what our lands do. Solar, we know, of course, is a very important renewable energy alternative, but it doesn't provide the essential eco services that forests and wetlands are undervalued for, such as regulating the water cycles. Even Jason pointed out, like sponge cities, which is such a great idea, but they basically are mimicking what natural systems already do. So wouldn't it be wiser to preserve and restore our existing natural systems and site solar where solar belongs? So it's, I'm just like stating the obvious, looking at a project that is a lot of us think is ill-founded, even though we all have anxiety about the climate crisis, but this is not the wisest way to address it. And if newer commissioners or anyone is interested in more information, a group of us have been studying this for years, in touch with climate scientists, ecologists, wildlife biologists, and other subject experts. And there's a lot of material and information at your disposal. So yeah, just saying it again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lenore. Can you please give us your address and your last name?
I always forget. I'm sorry. 255 Strong Street, not in a butter, but on the planet.
Thank you, Lenore. Aaron, are there any other members of the public who are looking to speak?
I don't see any more hands raised. Oh, hold on a second. I do see a hand raised. Judy Eisman.
Welcome, Judy. Please tell us if your name isn't Judy Eisman, please tell us your name, your real name, and your address.
My name is, in fact, Judy Eisman.
Great.
I am the chair of the planning board in Pelham, and I've been following this process for all the years that you've been dealing with it. I used to serve on the Conservation Commission in Pelham, and I was president of MACC at one point, so I have some background in these things. I only decided to speak because, as Lenore is pointing out, this is probably the worst sort of area to develop and damage wetlands and forests resources that are in short supply. I am happy to have solar in the right places. I'm happy to have development in the right places. But as our neighbor, we think, as we've been watching this, we think this is just the wrong place. And I would hope that you would let them start over and call a halt to this process at this point. I have written comments in the past, and I don't want to go on forever, but in short, that's what the town of Pelham feels. And I'm speaking in general for a variety of boards and individuals in Pelham who've been watching it. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Judy. Anyone else out of the public, Aaron?
I don't see anyone else at this time, Andre.
All right, so there was our public comment, and now we're gonna turn it over to the commissioners, and we'll start with Jason, who's raised his hand several times.
Thanks.
You
Thanks,
bet.
Andre. Thank you, everybody in the public who commented. Aaron, I want to just clarify our vote here. If we vote to deny the ANRAD, then what are the next steps? And as several people have mentioned, this has been going on and on. We've had multiple continuances. I want to make sure that we all understand what it is that the next steps will be. If they withdraw the project without prejudice, do they just then reapply for it?
I
And we
don't
go
think
through this
that,
process again? And so, yeah, if you could just clarify all of that.
sure. So I don't think whether the applicant withdraws or the commission denies, I don't think it really changes the process at all. They can still resubmit and address the peer reviewers' comments. I think the only difference with where we're at is it's almost like we're at an impasse. It puts the commission in a potential liability situation. And so, whether the commission decides to do that is really up to the four remaining members who can vote tonight. So it's kind of like an either or situation. We sort of create this potential liability or deny. If the only difference that a denial does is it gives the applicant an opportunity to appeal. And so there's really no difference in terms of whether we deny or whether the applicant withdraws. They could still resubmit 3 weeks from now with all of the peer review comments addressed and, revisions per the peer reviewers' comments.
And that would open us to liability because of the number of commissioners. Or if we deny, then can all of the current commissioners then
Right. So
vote on this, review and vote on the project?
Right. So if the applicant comes back with a new application at that time, anybody on the board can participate. It's because this hearing opened and there was this period of time since August when the application was submitted and the end of December that we've basically lost the ability to have multiple members vote, which has reduced our numbers to the point where, if Rachel or Jason, for example, missed another meeting, we would no longer have a quorum on this.
So if we deny, they can come back and just reapply, but every current commissioner then will have a vote. If they withdraw without prejudice, they can come back and reapply, and every commissioner will have a vote. So what you're saying is if we approve and this moves forward, only the four commissioners can vote on anything having to do with the project moving forward.
Well, you can't, well, I wouldn't recommend approving because we don't have a revised plan to approve. Right. It would be
Right.
continuation. And
I'm
if we
trying to figure out
continued, yeah, if we
if we
continued,
continue. Sorry,
only four
okay, that's
members
the
can
liability. If we
participate moving forward.
continue, if we, yeah, approve the continuance, request
Yes.
for continuance. Okay.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Go ahead, Bruce.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Steve. I thought I heard you say that you yourself are not in a position to withdraw the application tonight.
No, I could withdraw the application. I filed it. I'm not in the position to like direct the surveyors or the engineers, so I can't comment on their timing. So if you were to ask me like, hey, will I have a response by next week or 2 weeks or 5 weeks? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. They're not under they're under my control, but I can withdraw the application.
All right. Let's see. I had a couple things I wanted to say. You know, I don't want to I don't really feel like beating a dead horse, but the fact is that we have been through a lot of different steps in this process. We've, you know, I mean, we gave a pretty set demand, if you would, for information. Let me just read that so that to put this back into the public domain, if you would, or into the ears of the public. What we agreed on and voted on in the October 22nd meeting was that all, quote, all materials from the conclusion of the peer review will need to be received by the commission no later than December 10th. Later than December 10th, 2025 meeting for consideration at the December 17th meeting. If materials are not received by that date, the commission may need to deny the project for lack of information on December 17th, 2025. That's today. I don't feel like we have enough to make a vote. We are also in a precarious situation where we're losing our, or we have lost 3 of our members who could vote on this. And barring any huge revelation, I'm ready to take a vote on based on the amount of information that we've received so far. I mean, I think it's been very clear what we were asking for and then demanding, and it hasn't happened. You know, I know, Steve, you said that your hands are tied in certain senses. I'm feeling like our hands are getting pretty tied.
Well, I don't disagree with that. And to the defense of the project, and it's just a semantics thing, we didn't get the peer review stuff to even respond to it until after Thanksgiving. So the amount of time we had to pull the information together to make the 12/10 meeting was less than 2 weeks, which required survey to go back out and resurvey the site. So, you know, it was almost an impossible task on our end too, to properly respond to the 2 peer reviews in the window by the time we had the information to be able to make that response.
Thanks, Steve. I think this is a time for us to do some talking here among the commissioners, but I do appreciate your input there.
Thank you.
Yep. I mean, frankly, the written peer review comments were completed by Fuss O'Neill on 11/26 and forwarded to the applicants. The written peer review from Stockman Associates, which would be the engineering review, that was forwarded to the applicants on the 3rd of this month. Today is the 17th. So anyway, Rachel, please. I can't hear you.
DEP provided some comments about this also, citing 2 other ANRAD filings on the project that are possibly currently open. I'm not clear on that, and suggesting that those be closed out prior to this getting formalized. And I'm curious about how that, how that gets closed out. Is that just waiting time for that to expire, or is there a formal process for removing that ANRAD? Because it seems like there's a lot of discrepancy. There are a lot of pieces that are just not clear. And I'm just curious, like permitting wise, how that gets cleaned up.
Yeah, Aaron, briefly, if you can.
The first ANRAD expired.
Okay.
The second ANRAD is valid, but it would be superseded by this one. And that's my understanding, is that when a new one is issued, it supersedes the previous one.
Okay.
The previous ANRAD didn't include all of the resource areas within the study area, and so that was the challenge. And also, my understanding is the study area has changed. So, but I think the same question was posed to me today, and I am unaware of a process for closing out a ORAD, because it's not like you're finishing work, it's a delineation. How do you close that out?
Yeah.
I can seek some additional guidance on that, but my understanding is I'm not aware of any process.
Okay.
Thanks, Rachel and Aaron and Bruce.
I'd like to make the motion,
Please.
but I need Aaron to tell me, do I need to read this entire thing? Okay, then I'm going to start doing it. Hang in there. I move that the commission.
Bruce, is there any more? I think I'd like to make sure that any discussion that's going to be taking place is completed. Bruce, does anyone else have any of the voters, if you would? It's going to be Rachel, Bruce, Jason, and me. Have any more questions or any doubts or anything that that's clouding their mind in terms of making a decision? Okay, Bruce, sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's fine. I move the commission move to issue order of resource area delineation DEP number 0890762, checking box B, C 1, 2, and 3 under both the Wetlands Protection Act and under Wetlands Protection Town of Amherst General Bylaws, Article 3.31, deeming resource area boundaries to be inaccurate and referencing the attached findings of facts. The determination of the boundaries to be inaccurate is based on the applicant's failure to submit necessary required specific information, which was required to be submitted no later than December 10, 2025 deadline. This information was needed by the commission in order to make an informed assessment and determination on the accuracy of the resource area delineation shown on the plans of record. The following specific plan revisions were needed based on peer reviewer comments. 1, revised ILSF calculations addressing documented errors noted as number 1 through 4 in the Fuss and O'Neill peer review of engineering services letter dated November 26, 2025. 2, revised resource area delineation based on November 18th, 2025 site visit and written wetland consultant peer review comments from Stockman Associates dated December 1st, 2025, as detailed. A, general 1 through 7, B, S and 2S intermittent stream bank boundary and B, L, S, F 8 through 9, C, Y series B, VW boundary 10, D, 3S intermittent stream bank boundary 11 through 12, E, 5S intermittent stream bank boundary 13, F, D series BVW boundary 14 through 16, G, 6S intermittent stream bank boundary 17 through 21, H, 7S intermittent stream bank boundary 22 through 23, I, M, A, H, L, H, WL, and Riverfront area boundary 24, J, VPI series vernal pool boundary 25 through 26, and K, VP2 series vernal pool boundary 27. And with that, the longest motion in the history of the Conservation Commission.
Yeah, that's what it seems. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
All right. There's Bruce on a motion, Jason on a second. Rachel.
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
Bruce,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So the motion is passed. Steve, I'm sure we'll be seeing you or your brethren fairly soon.
I will
Good luck, and I
relay this
hope you.
information to the team, and
Sorry,
we will.
I didn't hear you, sir.
We will be back at some
All
point.
right. Okay.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye. Okay. With that, we move on to our next notice, which is an NOI, notice of intent. Stonefield Engineering and Design on behalf of Amir Mikchi of Fort River LLC for the proposed construction of a mixed-use structure, housing and commercial, with proposed parking, stormwater, and associated site and landscaping at 126, 140, and 148 Southeast Street and 48-3 Belchertown Road, map 15 C Charlie, lots 7, 8, 9, and 48. This has been open for a couple of months, two and a half months so far. And let's see who we have here to present for the applicants. And in the meantime, while Aaron brings them up, Bruce, do you have a question? Or is that your hand raised for before? Okay. So Aaron, if you can bring in the, okay, here we go. Josh Klein. Hello, Josh.
Good evening, Josh Klein, Stonefield. Is Ward Smith in the crowd, Aaron? He was going to be kind of presenting this evening.
Yes, I've added Ward to the panel.
Perfect. So I'll be very quick and kind of turn it over to Ward. So it's been, I think it's been about 2.5 months. We have only presented one time before the commission. So Mr. Smith, or Ward, who is the wetland scientist, wasn't available at the first meeting. Since the last meeting, just a couple of notes of what happened. We did do another field walkthrough. We were out there in the morning and then met up with Tina, Carol, and Rachel in the afternoon. We did submit an isolated land subject to flooding memo, kind of showing that the features on site are not subject to isolated land subject to flooding. We also provided the commission with a waiver justification memo, kind of speaking to the bylaws and the justifications for the waivers we're seeking as part of the application. I'm happy to, I'll share my screen, but I will turn it over to Mr. Smith just to kind of have him go through the existing features a little bit more in depth, kind of explain the wetlands, and then we can talk a little bit about next steps.
Okay, Ward Smith, Wendell Wetland Services. I did the wetland delineation on the property and did the site visit. So the applicant's asking for a variance from the buffer zone requirements of the Amherst Wetlands Protection Bylaw. I just would like to point out to the commission that if this were an undisturbed situation where these were natural wetlands with an undisturbed buffer zone, this project would not be before the commission. But we're dealing with wetlands that are they're isolated from other wetlands, and they're isolated geographically by State Highway, Route 9, Southeast Street, and the Colonial Village development. So they have no connectivity with other resource areas. The two wetlands that are off-site are mown. The portion of the wetland that's on this site is a shrub swamp, which is somewhat of a natural area, but the buffer zone is lawn, and there are houses and developed areas. The commission's has regulations of the bylaw, and I'm just going to read what it says. Exceptions can be made on a case-by-case basis in redevelopment projects, urban locations, and areas where resource area values are documented as severely degraded. So the wetlands are degraded, the buffer zone is degraded. In the calculations, they used previously degraded areas as being those that have lack of topsoil, paved, or buildings. But they considered areas that are mown lawn as non-degraded. And I'm not saying that they meet the definition of degraded, but it's not a natural condition. It's not a normal undisturbed wetland buffer zone situation. So what the applicant is proposing is to do on-site mitigation, providing planting of trees and shrubs, which will provide wildlife habitat values, including food and cover for birds and small mammals, which I think are what your wildlife species of interest on this particular property would be. And the applicant doesn't control the offsite wetlands, so that we can't do anything about that, but we can improve the buffer zone to those wetlands. And assuming Colonial Village in the future does some work on their site, they may propose the mitigation of those areas. So it would make it it would improve the overall values of the two wetlands. So I do want to point out, I've looked at the planting plan. I think the density and everything is good, but I need to make some suggestions to change some of the species, because some of the species that are listed are native to the United States, but they're not native to this area, this county. So I think I'm sure the commission wants things that are only native to this particular area. Thank you.
Thanks,
Ward. Yeah, I'll just kind of close out, and just highlighting on the screen. I think what Ward's talking about is creating that perpetual or kind of protected buffer. So you kind of have this area along the kind of to the north of the page and kind of continues along kind of the rest of the right-hand side property line. So that'll be that kind of permanent, native buffering zone. And we did provide detailed responses to kind of all the requirements when seeking relief. We did want to note any redevelopment application, to redevelop this used car dealership, when we look at alteration, would trigger the need for a waiver. So, we understand that we kind of have two isolated features that are driving kind of the cumulative, effort here when we talk about the total amount of alteration. But we do have an existing condition, with this used car dealership historically, being here with parked cars, any redevelopment, any improvement of this lot, would trigger the waiver. So that was kind of another highlight that we wanted to make, but we're happy to go through kind of the status of the memo, answer any questions about both the isolated land subject to flooding memo, as well as the waiver justification memo submitted.
Well, thank you, Josh. If you and Ward are done, we'll turn the word over to the town conservation agent for her update. Erin?
So I've drafted kind of a finding of fact that outlines the questions that the commission is going to need to answer in order to consider the waiver. And I would like for the commission to try to complete this task this evening so that, number one, the applicant has guidance on how to proceed, and I have guidance on how to proceed with the ongoing review. I generally am fine with the delineation as it's been submitted. The applicant submitted some revisions to my memo, submitted revisions to their memo. In my report, I noted that there was a couple adjustments that I would like to see made, and that they've made those adjustments, submitted it to us last night. I haven't had a chance to read it, but I understand they've addressed my comments. And so, yeah, I'd just like to really address the waiver tonight if we can.
Thanks, Erin. And in terms of, one of the things in the waiver that is that the proposed work must have no significant adverse impact on the resource area. What kind of adverse impact have you seen, or do you think it's going to have?
You
And I
asking me,
can, yes,
or you're asking me?
yes, I am.
Um, well, I mean, you're so just to back up and take a grander look at this. In the last 5 years, I've seen this the Colonial Village property sort of transform. It was a significantly forested property, and if you look at the aerial imagery, which is in your packet, you'll see that the site was significantly forested several years ago. It's all been cut down and turned to lawn. So I don't disagree that it is been degraded, but I think it's been degraded without permits, and it's been degraded because of the work that's been done on the site. So, I mean, I guess I take a different stance with wetlands protection, which is, sometimes the wetlands which are most severely degraded need more protection. I mean, if we've allowed them to become degraded, then to me that's a symptom that things have been happening around them that have not been good. So I'm I think that there are a lot of nice elements with this plan with the plantings. I noted Ward's comments about some of the plants not being native to Massachusetts or to, our immediate area. I think some additional attention could be put towards that. I have not dug into the stormwater management plan at all. I haven't even opened it to look at this yet. And so for me to comment relative to that, I would really need to dig into the stormwater management plan to have a better sense of things. But if it meets the state standards, then it's something that would be easily permittable. Um, I I
Okay.
think I'm doing my best to answer
Yep.
on the fly.
Thanks for your answers. I appreciate it. Ward has something to say. Ward, why don't you make it quick? And I will second that.
I just want to clarify, just to make it clear that I don't want to say violation, the potential clearing that happened was not on this property. It was on the adjacent property. It was not this
Yeah.
property. So
Thanks, Ward. Yep, I can vouch for that. I lived in Colonial Village in '85, so it's been yeah, I can vouch for that. All right. Well, now we have members of the public. I'd like to hear from anyone in the public, if you don't mind raising your hand, and Aaron will bring you in for your comments or questions. Going once for public comment, going twice, and going 3 times. Okay. With that, Bruce, for commissioners.
So I want to emphasize that our purpose here is to focus on the request for a waiver. In the finding of fact, there are some questions we should try to answer, and I'm relying on the chair to guide us to answer them. And I think if we do that, then we can go ahead and we can create a motion that addresses our need to decide about the waiver.
Well, that sounds good. Let's start with this exercise then, and then any questions as they arise, we can ask them. So this is if you've had an opportunity to look at these, that's great. We're looking at the draft finding of fact, and under Wetlands Protection Town of Amherst, and the draft finding of fact as well on so that's the one. I'm going to go ahead and read this out loud, unless you think it's a bad idea.
These are straw votes, are they not?
They are.
Okay.
So, so the first waiver request is an exception to the buffer zone allowance of up to 20% of the area within the 50 foot to 100 foot buffer zone. In this case, we've got a proposed alteration of 53% of the buffer zone between 50 and 100 feet, as well as 10.5% of the actual buffer within 50 feet. So the commission should consider this regulation after hearing the applicant's case for a waiver, which we heard, and take a vote to determine if we're willing to grant or consider this. Now, the questions are, 1, has the commission, or this is a question for each one of our commissioners individually. So have you determined the proposed work will have, quote, no significant adverse impact on the resource area based on the evidence provided? So, Bruce, have you determined that there...
Andre, may I suggest a different approach?
Yeah, sure. I want to do hands?
I think we should just ask for yes votes and no votes by hand and just see what we get.
Okay. Has the commission determined the proposed work will have no significant adverse impact on the resource area based on the evidence provided? If you say no, raise your hand. I say no.
Sorry, could you restate?
So, yep. The question is, Josh, unless it's something that has to do with exactly what we're talking about here, why don't you go ahead and make it short, okay?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I would like to, I guess, confirm that the commission had a chance to read the waiver justification summary. We did provide
we've
responses
done
to
that. You
each
don't
of
need to
these.
confirm that, Josh. This is
We
our
would
job.
like to, I mean, we
Why
would
don't
like
you-
the opportunity to speak to these points in depth.
Yeah, well, we that's our job. I mean, we've looked through everything. I don't think you get a chance to confirm that with each one of us, though.
I guess we're more looking for an opportunity to kind of go through and answer these questions. I don't, our first presentation, we weren't able to do that.
Yeah, well, we're going to answer those ourselves right now, Josh.
Again, I mean,
this is
just
for us
stating
to
we would
answer.
like the opportunity to speak to them.
We can give you that chance later. But I mean, did you not have these materials?
I believe this was uploaded maybe last night.
Right.
And at the last meeting, we didn't have the waiver justification, and we weren't allowed to kind of go in depth. Our presentation was cut short at our first meeting.
All right. Well, we'll deal with that afterward. But right now, we're taking a vote on these things, and we need to take this straw poll. Okay, Josh. So why don't you put your hand back down, Josh, if you could. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask the questions and then raise our hands. This first question, Jason, that you had asked, it's whether we have determined that the work is going to have no significant adverse impact on the resource area based on what they've given us.
And
That's what I
so
said. I heard.
if we answer yes, that means there's no. The question, it's just the way it was stated. The
Right.
question
Let me
stated was
explain how I see it real quick. I don't feel like I've been able to, I don't feel like I have been able to determine that there's no significant adverse impact on the resource area yet. Therefore, when I asked for the no's, I raised my hand. Mm-hmm. So if you think that it's not going to have any adverse impact, then it would be a yes.
Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Okay.
No adverse impact, yes.
It's
no
confusing.
determination, or you think there will be adverse impact? No.
Correct. So,
All right.
so the first question is a no if you wait. The actual, just to correct that, if there's enough information in there for you to determine that there's no significant impact, then you vote yes. But if you don't have enough information to determine that there's no significant impact, then you vote no. Or if you think there's significant impact, then you vote no also. Make sense now? Is that accurate, Aaron? Just to make sure that
Yes. Yeah, I think
we're all good.
I think it's clear now. Yes.
Okay. So a no vote is that you don't have enough information or that you think it's going to be impact. A yes vote is that you have enough information and you don't think it's going to have an impact. So if you vote no, raise your hand. Okay. I don't see, Carol, I can't see your hand. All I see is your face if you're raising your hand. Okay, Carol raises her hand. So there's 3 no's and 2 yays, right? On question number 1.
I didn't see that.
What's that?
What I saw was, well, I couldn't see Rachel. So Rachel, were you a no?
I was a no.
Okay,
Rachel's
sorry.
a no,
And
Carol's
then-
a no, and I
All
didn't
right.
see, I cannot see,
I guess, Andre, what I was asking is, did you call for the yes hands or not?
no, I called for the no hands so far.
Okay.
Tina, I'm sorry if you raised your hand on the no, I didn't see you because you're not in my screen.
I'm in the yes camp.
Okay, so now for the yays, we have 1, 2, and 3. So 3 and 3. 2. Has the applicant provided sufficient evidence to the commission that the area being disturbed will not harm the resource area values protected by the law? So if you, has the applicant provided sufficient evidence to the commission that the area being disturbed will not harm the resource area values protected by the law? Let's just go with the yays now. Yes, we have, who votes yes? There's 1 for Bruce and 1 for Tina.
Yes, that
And
it will not harm.
correct. Yep. So we have 3. And nays, raise your hand. And we have 3. Does the commission determine that this is a redevelopment project? If you believe yes, raise your hand. That's Jason, Rachel.
And Tina.
Okay. Tina, your hand's up too?
Yep, I'm a yes.
Okay. And the nays? 1, 2.
I was going
and
to abstain. But I'm going to go with the yeses.
Okay, 4 and 2. And does the commission determine that the resource area values on the site are documented as severely degraded? Raise your hand if you say yes. That's 1, 2. Raise your hand if you say no. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So on question. So on question 1, we have no quorum. Question 2, we have no quorum. Question 3, we have a quorum for the no. I mean, actually, question 3 is for the yes, right?
The only one we agreed on, the commission agreed on, was the confirmation that it is indeed a redevelopment project.
Well, we had a 4-1, a 4-2 on question 3. Does the commission determine this is, yeah, okay. And then the last one, we had, does the commission determine that the resource area values on the site are documented as severely degraded? We said yes. Right?
The yeses were Tina and Bruce, and the nos were Andre, Carol, Jason, and Rachel. So it was not determined to be severely degraded.
Oh, right, correct. So it was not degraded, right? Okay. So where do we go with this, Aaron?
Yeah. So basically what this means is that right now we don't have support to grant the waiver. There's a couple sort of tie-breaking votes with regard to Sarah not being here tonight. So like where there was 3-3. But I think this gives the applicant sort of good contextual information on the waiver request, that for the exceedance of the 20%, that at this point it's not passable as a waiver. I think we should look at the second waiver request as well, which would be for the encroachment on the buffer zone of the isolated vegetated wetland, which has a 100-foot no work zone, and this would be potentially a precedent-setting decision if the commission allows encroachment on isolated vegetated wetlands. Since the new bylaw came into effect, there has not been any work permitted in that area. So if there is a decision by the commission with as far as a quorum of members in support of granting that, I would recommend that there be a rationale, like a regulatory rationale provided, so that we can issue a finding of fact with the order of conditions that basically supports that.
Okay, Aaron, thanks. Let's give Josh an opportunity to speak here. It's a little out of turn and so on, but I know you've been chomping at the bit there, Josh. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, we appreciate the feedback. A little bit of a different approach than we probably have seen. I mean, we do feel, I mean, given the votes that we received, again, split decisions on multiple items, I mean, to us, it would feel appropriate, to give us an opportunity to come back to the commission and be able to explain and provide further documentation why we, do in fact meet those questions that were answered tonight. Again, there was multiple split votes. It was tough because there was a little bit of back and forth on some of them, but that would just be my comment. I feel, this is the kind of at the first meeting, the conversation, unfortunately didn't get to this point. I mean, it would be helpful as, for the applicant, now to be able to kind of take this feedback and be able to come back to the commission in ways that we feel like we do address, or maybe provide additional documentation to help get this commission, a little bit more comfortable with the decisions being made. I mean, the reality is we have a used car dealership that, no matter what is done on that lot, it would be over 20%. You couldn't do any redevelopment of the used car dealership. You couldn't change that use without relief from this board. So our hope would be is we can come up with ways, to make this board comfortable that permanent solutions can be put in place, because it is a buffer zone application. We are not touching any of the isolated wetlands. We can't control what the neighbor did on their property. So that is all I'd really ask. I hope the commission would be open to allowing us to continue forward. I mean, this is a mixed use project. It has an affordable housing component. We'd love the opportunity to try to work with the commission to get to a solution that everybody's happy with. I mean, at the end of the day, redevelopment projects like this, and the commission did confirm this is a redevelopment, it requires us to work together. It requires this commission to work with us, the planning board to work with us, the applicant to work together to come up with something successful. I mean, housing, is needed. This area has been flagged in the master plan in the town of Amherst for redevelopment for this type of use. It's an opportunity to get rid of a used car dealership that is less than 1 foot away from an isolated wetland. So that's all I would say. I hope we would get the opportunity to kind of come back to the commission with some additional responses.
You're talking about responses. You're talking about coming back to us to give the waiver another shot.
Agreed. I mean, with the
No,
waiver,
I'm asking. It's not. I'm not
correct.
Okay.
You can't redevelop this site without a waiver. So maybe we need to break that down a little bit more to kind of make it a little bit digestible for the commission. You know, that used car dealership, just touching that lot alone would require a waiver for alteration and would require a waiver for work. I mean, you have structures and parking, you know, less than
Okay.
5 feet away from an isolated wetland.
Thanks for your input, Josh. Appreciate it. Aaron?
I just wanted to say the purpose of this exercise is not to deny tonight. I just want to make that clear to Josh. Once the sort of temperature is taken of the board on this, the idea is the ball is in your court to come back. This is the purpose of this is because I can't move forward with anything and you can't move forward with anything until we know where the commission stands on this. So I just want to say that because I can sense that you're very apprehensive about the commission's taking the commission's opinions of where things are from a regulatory standpoint. But from my perspective, we need to do this in order to determine, are we continuing for the next meeting? Are we continuing for a month? Do you guys need time to make revisions? Do you need time to prepare responses and collect more information? That's why we're doing this. So I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, I think that's helpful because again, we just got the finding of fact. We didn't have a chance really to, you know, a few days to look at it and have our attorney look at it. It is written as a motion to deny.
No. It's not written as a motion to deny. It's not even written as a finding of fact. It's the bare bones to collect information so that we can determine where the commission stands is all it is. So I'm just trying to understand where the commission falls on this so I know, hey, we're going to have a bunch of revisions. Don't review the stormwater management plan till we get those, or whatever the case is going to be here. So could we take a look at the second waiver request and try to get the commission's feedback on that so the applicant can have guidance and I can have guidance before the next hearing?
Yes, Aaron. We'll get on to that now. Quick question from Jason.
I'm curious if we're going to have a chance to actually discuss our rationale for why we made the decisions we made.
I would sure hope so in future iterations of future presentations for this project.
How are we gonna, like, this is not denying it, right? This is just a temperature, right? So if the applicant takes this information though, it's like, oh, we're split on a number of these things. One of them, like, I would prefer that we have that conversation tonight if possible, or at least some of it in that, so they can then take that information and say, okay, well, you don't think it's going to harm it because X, Y, Z, or you do think it is.
Okay.
So they can
Something's very unclear here, and I just want to make sure I clarify this. The finding of fact isn't issued until the commission closes the public hearing and issues an order of conditions. So we're not issuing a finding of fact tonight. We're not closing the public hearing. We're not issuing an order of conditions denying or approving tonight. I'm starting to frame out what the order will be. I can't do that until I hear from the commission. So once we get the framework of where the commission stands, it's going to guide me on my review. It's going to guide the applicant on their presentation of where are we lacking information. As we evolve through this review process, it's going to help us to refine those things or kind of solidify where the commission stands. I do think that the applicant should have an opportunity potentially to respond. I think we should also give Sarah an opportunity to weigh in because there's a split here on several of these questions where we need a quorum to weigh in. It's just to see where we fall right now so that we can figure out where we're lacking and we can, this document is going to be an evolution until the order of conditions is issued. It will be attached to the order of conditions regardless, but we're not going to be issuing that tonight. We're not going to be issuing it until plans are finalized and we're ready to issue an order of conditions. If that makes sense.
So this is an ongoing process that's not over. And now, after today's meeting, Josh and Ward and your team, Josh, can go back with the information that we've got and try and figure out what else to do. In agreement with Jason's statement that it would be a lot more helpful for you to know why we have voted the way that we have. I think it would be good for us to discuss that. Jason, though, I think we're at it. I don't think we have enough time for that right now. I think we're going to need to do that in the next meeting. That's what I would propose, because we still have another hearing to go and we have to close. Have a few other things to do before we close our meeting. Jason?
Yeah, I agree with you. Time-wise, it doesn't make sense. I'm just a little bit like, what are we asking them to do then for the next meeting? Like, to come back with this information, like, what are they going to do with this? So we can move on. I'm fine with moving on.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really know how much they can do with it right now, but there are a few things like like Josh mentioned, that they haven't had a chance to really pour through and address the peer review and so on. Right, Josh, or some of the what was it, a finding of fact that you were looking to look at, or what? Anyway,
yeah, we haven't received a peer review. We, at the last meeting, which was about a month ago, we really didn't have a chance to get much feedback from the commission. I know we obviously missed the last meeting, so we just don't want any prejudice to be taken that this is taking a while to kind of get where we need to go. It's kind of out of our control. So any feedback we can get tonight, we'd really appreciate it. I know this applicant is really excited to be able to try to move the project forward. So anything that can help us, we would appreciate. But we've addressed all comments received from Aaron at this time. So we have nothing matter of fact that we can respond to.
You don't have any matters pending. Well, I hope it will serve you as a little bit of relief, but I would like to see us have these discussions next meeting, if that's possible. Carol? Can't hear you. Sorry, you're muted.
So when the choice on the first question was, did we feel we didn't have enough information? So that's why I voted no, because I didn't feel I had enough information. So that might be helpful to you, Josh. Okay?
There you go. And I think we can have a bit more of a discussion the next time around. That's all I really wanted to discuss tonight. I really don't think I think if we start to discuss each one of these questions for each one of us individually, I think we're going to end up taking too much time. Bruce?
Aaron asked us to go through waiver request 2.
Thank you. Thanks for getting me back on track there. Waiver request 2. Buffer zone presumptions. Isolated vegetated wetland and/or vernal pool. No work may occur within 100 feet of the isolated vegetated wetland and other such. And no structure or associated driveway, utility, parking lot, and/or other road may be constructed within 100 feet of the IVW or isolated land subject to flooding as well, or a vernal pool. Work and building are defined. If you have, I'm just going to go ahead and read it. Filling, excavating, grading, operating construction equipment, altering vegetation and or storing or stockpiling earth or construction materials. Building means a structure requiring a building permit are both proposed within, okay. So finding, the commission should consider this regulation after hearing the applicant's case for a waiver, which we've heard, take a vote to determine if they're willing or unwilling to grant or consider granting a waiver under this provision to move the project forward as proposed before moving on to a full project review of the application. The motion should include the commission's regulatory rationale for granting or denying the waiver request based on the language of the regulations and the evidence provided by the applicant. So I'll read this. I'll just make sure that we're all understanding that the buffer zone presumptions is that isolated vegetated wetlands and or vernal pools, no work may occur within 100 feet of the isolated vegetated wetlands, isolated land subject to flooding or vernal pool, and no structure or associated driveway, utility, parking, and or other road may be constructed within 100 feet of the IVW, etc. If you've had an opportunity to read it, does anybody have any questions about that question itself? We've had a chance to read it. So as for a vote, let's see. Are we willing or unwilling to grant or consider granting a waiver of this provision of the isolated vegetated wetland 100-foot buffer zones? If you're willing to grant or consider granting a waiver, raise your hand. There's one, two.
The question was whether they're willing to grant the waiver.
Yes. Are you willing to grant a waiver? In other words, waive the 100-foot the 100-foot buffer to isolated vegetated wetlands. Are you willing to grant that for this project?
So we have Carol, Jason, and Tina. Right?
You also said, are we willing to consider it? Right?
Right.
That's what it says.
Well, I'm willing to consider it.
Right. Okay. I think the question, Aaron, is that the right question?
Yeah. No, I think you guys are doing great.
Okay.
So I mean, by default, I'm assuming Andre, Bruce, and Rachel are not willing at this time to consider granting it.
I'm there with Carol. I'm willing to consider.
I'm willing
it, but
to consider.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
me too. I mean, I think the question is a little bit odd. All right, where do we go if we're willing to consider?
Okay. So that's really helpful. That's really helpful.
Mhm.
So it sounds like commissioners are flexible on waiver 2, the possibility of granting waiver number 2. It sounds like some commissioners are comfortable with approaching waiver 1, and there's kind of a tiebreaker on some of those questions. So my guidance would be, I think I should dig into the full plan review at this point, looking at stormwater, looking at the details of the plan. And I think it would be helpful for the applicant to bring some additional detail with regard to the documentation for how they're proposing to protect the wetland from significant adverse impacts, how they're proposing to protect the wetland from harm, and yeah, I mean, I think maybe some documentation on why the wetlands are severely degraded would be helpful. So like those are some things that the applicant can come with. I can start doing my review. And I think once we get Sarah here, it's going to be a tiebreaker to basically be able to help us determine whether the waiver is something the commission is gonna move towards.
All right. Well, there you go, Josh. I hope that answers some of your questions. Bruce has a question.
Well, I just want to test the proposition that it's not all or nothing. That if one was within 99 feet or 92 feet or 84 feet, I mean, where at some point the question is, well, how far away are you going to be in order that you're not going to have an impact? So that's why it feels very flexible to me to have a chance. That's why I want to consider it, given more detail. And that's what Mr. Klein is asking for, is an opportunity to give more detail.
Yep. Therefore, we will be considering it with his details, right?
Right. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, thanks to you. Rachel.
I
Can't
think
hear
it
you.
would be helpful to have more discussion around those points. But also I'm also reflecting on other projects that we have reviewed similar requests for waivers and have denied. And so I'm thinking about this in the context of precedent and the precedent that's already established also, so that would be good to discuss in the future, in future meetings.
That's a great point, Rachel, and please please bring that back up when we're discussing it, because yeah, thanks. Bruce, your hand is still up, but I think it's Carol who's got the question now.
Well, I agree with Rachel that if you're looking at something that would be precedent setting, a decision that would be precedent setting, we'd have to really carefully understand what the exceptions were to that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Also, I think one of the things that Rachel was saying is that there already has been a precedent set where we were actually upholding the buffer zones. So there's a bit to be spoken on either side of that argument. Aaron.
It'd be helpful to know from the applicant how much time they'd like to prepare. Like, would you like to be on the January 14th agenda to present more, or do you need additional time?
I don't like to answer a question with a question, but some of it would have to do with how long it would take for you to get some of your initial feedback, if what's realistic.
You mean on the overall project review?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think we should kick it. My suggestion is that we continue to January 14th at 7:15. I may not have a complete review done at that time, but I'm going to do my best to get through as much of the application as possible. And I think at that time, if you come with some additional information relative to the waiver requests, then maybe we can revisit the waiver request question, and I can begin to present some of my questions to allow you to have some feedback so we can start working through the plan details.
Yeah, I think that'd be perfect, and give us some time to get some additional feedback from the commissioners.
Yeah, I think Josh, at that point we'll have a little bit more time, and I think that'd be a good time for us to kind of have a back and forth with questions and concerns, etc. Jason?
Yeah, as Josh mentioned, with a project like this, I think there's a lot of different commissions within the town that are going to be working together. I asked at the last meeting if they were seeking a parking variance as well for the number of parking spots. I don't recall the answer if they were going to, if they already have received it.
I think they went down to 72 spots. Go ahead, Josh. Yeah,
it's not a variance, but the planning board has the ability to grant the relief kind of under site plan review. So we are very, we are below the town requirements in terms of parking. So there's some limitation. But I mean, that's where we have to work. I think the applicant is, there's a lot of investment, time and money, and so they're trying to get a better feel. This commission probably is the biggest driver of the application and the viability and the feasibility to get the housing and the affordable housing. So that's why we're really kind of trying to work through with this group so that we can, then continue with the planning board.
Yeah, and some of my rationale for why I've made the decisions that I made without going into them tonight are, I don't want this to be an endless circle of like, oh, the Concom's waiting to see if planning will grant this so that they can grant this because there's opinions of potential harm to the resources or work in the buffer zone. Does that make sense as far as like, a bunch of questions that I might have that are potentially contingent on if you're even going to be allowed to make certain changes on the site? Like if you come back the way that this is proposed right now, you have a parking lot where the used car dealership was. I'm assuming that this plan set that we have shows a number of parking spots that you want, not that you're required to have, right? So this plan set assumes some sort of relief from the planning board. Is that correct?
Correct.
So the planning board we might make all these decisions and the planning board can go back and say, you need 60 more parking spots on this as an arbitrary number, right? You need 60 more parking spots on this. We're not going to grant that relief. Where is everybody going to park? And then you're going to have to find a place to put 60 more parking spots.
I think that's, the applicant's burden, and we would have to work with them in that board to kind of figure out the final parking. But I think the limits of disturbance and kind of these waivers that we're seeking here are critical to even understand, what we can do.
All right. My interest is more in, I mean, I don't know what it is that how we're allowed to potentially work or discuss decisions of other commissions, but it would be, I could see this taking a lot of time and having a lot of circular questions as far as I'm concerned, but
that is the challenge of developing housing in the state of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
All right. Time for yep, go ahead, Bruce.
No, just waiting for the motion.
Can we put the motion up there?
It's there.
I don't see it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll move to continue the public hearing for DEP number 089-0765 to January 14, 2025 at 7:15 p.m.
Jason with a motion. Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
All right. Is that Tina with a second?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Jason with a motion. Tina with a second. Tina?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Bruce?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Thanks, Josh. We'll see you in a few weeks. Enjoy your holidays.
Thank you. You as well.
Thanks. Okay, with that, we'll move on to our third hearing. This is a notice of intent, NOI, Goddard Consultant, on behalf of Roxana and Dakota Freeman for the proposed construction of a single-family home with associated shed, utilities, driveway, and associated mitigation within the buffer zone of bordering an isolated vegetated wetlands at 750 West Street, map 22B Bravo, lot 1. And I see we've got Mark Rubin here. Is there anyone else with you, Mark, tonight?
Freeman is also here.
Okay. Well, they can join if they wanted to. If they're going to present, they can just raise their hand, or are they going to present? Mark? Are they planning on speaking?
I think they're going to be available for not presenting, but they're here if they need some questions. So.
Okay. Well, Mark, why don't you go ahead?
All right. Thank you very much. Mark Rubin, wetland scientist with Goddard Consulting, and just representing Dakota and Roxana Freeman for 750 West Street. And since the previous hearing, based off of feedback from the commission and some further discussion with Roxana and Dakota, we made a few changes to the plans, which I can share with you here. Can you hear that? See that okay?
Yeah.
All right. So we'll just go through all the changes here. So moving from left to right, we did add the previously approved wetland replication area down here by the request of the commission. This is just an estimated location, so this was not, surveyed or anything. This is just taken off of, georeferencing from previous site plans, and this is just an estimated wetland boundary here, but it is far enough away from the existing driveway that it doesn't change what kind of buffer zone or anything is being impacted. The next thing we did is we moved the utility lines from alongside the road here to underneath the road. So we're going to install this. We'll need to dig up the road, but the limit of work does not go, the limit of work for the most part doesn't go beyond the edge of the road now. In addition to that, we did add the stockpile area along the edge of the road here. There is going to be some necessary tree cutting here in order to access the sewer line. The applicants don't want to do any tree cutting, but in this case it was necessary to do a little just to get to the sewer line, but this would be replanted after cutting. In addition to that, over where the house is, we did shift the house a little bit west and expand the limit of work here. So we were trying to keep the limit of work as tight as possible, but as the commission pointed out, there just really wasn't enough space in the limit of work to really get the machines around the house and do the construction. So we did expand the limit of work and shift the house a little bit to center it within the limit of work. So this change will put the limit of work farther into the 50-foot buffer zone, but it won't result in any additional tree cutting. And in addition to that, we did add some extra plantings over to the west here. Not only would this serve function as mitigation, but the applicants also want to do as much planting as they possibly can. Like their goal with this part of the goal for their house is for it to be in a forested setting and have as much, have it as close to the natural wetland and forested area as possible. So they really do want to plant as much as possible in these areas. So that's essentially all the changes that we've made. Overall, we think this will be a general improvement to the site. This house is, and the associated shed is really the only, that's the only added completely impervious area. And the rest of the space that we'll be utilizing for the limit of work, it's either already existing driveway or it's been previously cleared for the house that was proposed to be here in the past. So, the fact that they want to, currently it's, slowly being taken over by invasive species like multiflora rose. So, clearing the site and replanting with native species, I think will actually benefit the site overall and the adjacent wetlands. So with that, I can happy to answer any questions you have about the changes.
Thank you, Mark. I think what we're going to do is go to Aaron for the town's perspective on what's happened in the last few weeks. Aaron?
Yes. So a couple updates. I was supposed to go out there the Tuesday of the snowstorm to verify the wetland and wasn't able to get out there to review the wetland boundary. So that has sort of introduced a challenge with confirmation of the wetland boundary. And it would be really helpful for me tonight to get some guidance from the commission with regard to whether the commission would like to continue the hearing until, the timeline that we had discussed earlier in the meeting, which is basically when we have growing season and adequate water table, or if the commission is okay with continuing to review this application, understanding that we are unable to confirm the resource area boundaries as part of the application right now. So that is one piece that would be helpful for me to get some guidance on. I have drafted another finding of fact because we have multiple waiver requests for this project. The waiver requests, again, we're looking at encroachment in the 100-foot buffer to isolated wetlands and as well as the encroachment into the 50-foot no-touch with the residential limit of work and the utility connection. So those are two waivers. Again, I need some guidance from the commission on whether you're moving in a direction of issuing those waivers or not. I did have two follow-up questions, which I don't want to concern the commission with too much tonight, but really just confirming the specific dates that there was the vernal pools were confirmed during the vernal pool season, which we haven't been able to do yet. And then also just to confirm, because there was some commentary in the application that only the areas where proposed work was located and or buffer zones were cast were confirmed by the field delineation. So I'd like some confirmation that the entire site that is shown on the plan was confirmed by field delineation. And yeah, I think that basically covers my comments from the report. But I do have a finding of fact. I would love it if we could sort of do a relatively quick straw poll on each of the questions just to see where commissioners fall again on the issuance of the waiver so we can see where we stand and kind of how I can move towards issuing an order of conditions or if there are plan changes needed.
Sounds good. Thank you, Aaron. What I've been unable to find the findings of fact in any of our paperwork. I'm sorry, I probably missed it, but I'm going to need you to pull that up when it's time for us to ask those questions. Meantime, we're looking to see if the public has any questions or comments about 750 West Street. I can't see if anyone's raising their hands, but if you're in the public and you had any questions about 750 West Street, please raise your hand and we'll get you into the conversation. Going once?
I don't see any.
Okay. With that then, commissioners, do we have any questions in the meantime, or do we go straight, Rachel?
Yeah, the previous plans showed isolated wetlands sort of to the southeast of the work area that would in theory have a 100-foot buffer and they don't appear to be on the current plans. I wonder if the applicant could speak to that or if we could have some clarification about that.
Mark?
Yeah. Okay, sure. And I'll share my screen again just to confirm what area we're discussing here. I'm guessing it's kind of this general area that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we didn't determine wetlands to be in that area. Yeah, I've seen the previous plans, so I know exactly what you're talking about. But we didn't determine that those had the appropriate vegetation or soils to qualify as wetlands. And I know, yeah, I think when Aaron was discussing the confirming wetland line, I think that was kind of the main area she was thinking of. I think that's there was some discussion about that previously. But yeah, based on our delineation, we didn't think it was a wetland.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, unfortunately, the weather got to us before Aaron was able to get a good look at that. Bruce?
Oh, well, especially given that it was on the plan and now it's not, I would absolutely like Aaron to have a chance to get out there. So for that piece of the three things we're discussing, I'd strongly encourage us to give it a chance to get to the springtime so she can go see it. If it can happen sooner, if for some reason all the snow went away and, drought was lifted, that's fine. But anyway, that's my view.
I agree with you, Bruce. There's you got to be able to make the town needs to be able to make a determination as well. And I think the timing of the drought, the snow, and the cold have worked against the applicant in this. Any other questions or any other comments from our commissioners?
Could I make a further comment just on that previous subject there?
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if this situation, if the commission determines that they're open to, if they're open to issuing a waiver and they don't have any further concerns, and this portion of this potential isolated wetland is the only thing holding things up. Just wondering if it's potentially possible for the commission to approve the work without approving the wetland boundary.
Mark,
just given that this,
yeah, Mark. I'll tell you from my perspective. I think that that's just one spot, but essentially, I'm not comfortable without Aaron having taken a look at all of it. She really hasn't been able to see any of it or check it for wetlands. So that's my opinion, but I'm just one of seven. So,
yeah. I mean, my feeling is that is outside the limit of work, that area. The commission, there was a site walk. We did go around the limit of work and look at that area. So that was a portion of the site that was viewed by the commission. So I just want to say that is something that would appeal to us. I know, my understanding is that Dakota and Roxana are eager to move forward with the construction of their home, and I think we would prefer not to have to wait till spring. But I totally understand the commission's concerns on this, though.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I appreciate that. I mean, it's we're talking about a house that's kind of built with right in the middle of, or right in the middle of these BBWs, right? I mean, anyway, Jason.
Mark, do you have the number off the top of your head as far as, so it's 100% of the site is within the 100-foot wetland buffer zone, right? I see that note on
the buildable area. The limit of work is 100% within the 100-foot buffer zone. Yeah.
This is on sheet 2 of 2 of the plan set
Mm-hmm.
dated November 26, 2025. But the only 100-foot buffer that's shown is the perennial. This isn't this. Can you confirm this is a 100-foot buffer of 1, 2, 3, 4 resource areas? It's not a 100-foot buffer. It's 4 different 100-foot buffers.
It's multiple 100-foot buffers. Yeah.
Does that then, Andre or Aaron, does that then change the question? Or is the question because the question is, are you willing to entertain a waiver for the provision of like the 100-foot buffer? But do we need 1 waiver or do we need 4 waivers?
This is my recommendation, is handle the isolated wetlands and the BVW separately. So essentially, even though there might be different wetlands as in different wetland numbers, that the isolated wetlands have 100-foot no touch, the BVW have a 50-foot no touch, but there are certain provisions between 50 and 100 where development is permitted. So I would recommend that we sort of break them out, and that's why I broke them out with 2 separate waivers. So one for the 100-foot isolated and one for the BVW, and the encroachments on the 100-foot to the bordering vegetated wetland.
So, all right. Are there any other questions from commissioners? I don't have that straw poll. I don't have the questions in front of me, Aaron.
Did you want, Andre, would it be helpful if I read it since you're having...
Yeah, because I can't
Okay,
read that.
sure.
I'm
Sure,
sorry.
of course.
Aaron,
Yeah. No,
can you
let me
make it
help.
bigger?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna try to make this as easy as I can and also quick because I know we still have like a lot of business to deal tonight and we're almost at 10 o'clock. Okay, so here is the first piece. So buffer zone presumptions, again, isolated wetlands, no work within 100 feet. So the finding is the commission should consider this regulation and after hearing the applicant's case for a waiver, take a vote to determine if they're willing or unwilling to grant or consider granting the waiver of this provision to move forward with the project before moving to a full project review. The motion should include the commission's regulatory rationale. So we can include the regulatory rationale. I just want to get, again, a straw poll of where people stand on this to see how they're feeling about the work in the 100-foot buffer. So if you're comfortable with granting the waiver, then a yes. If you're uncomfortable with the waiver, it would be a no. Just to get a gauge.
So if you're comfortable with the waiver, yes. Not comfortable, no.
Just for the 100-foot no touch to isolated wetlands.
Okay. All right. So if you're comfortable with a no touch to the isolated wetlands, go ahead and raise your hand. If you're not comfortable with it, raise your hand.
Okay, I see Jason, Andre, Bruce,
All of us.
Carol, all of you. Okay, so not comfortable. Okay. All right, so second waiver is the minimum setbacks. So under BVW, we have a 50-foot setback to the resource area, which is a no touch. And this includes the setback required for utilities as well as the setback required for residential construction, so disturbance associated with residential construction. Again, the commission has the ability under these regulations to reduce the required setback from that 50-foot no touch in consideration of the existing development on and around the site. So if you are comfortable with granting a waiver to the 50-foot no touch, it would be a yes. If you're uncomfortable, it would be a no.
I just want to clarify, this is for the road and the sewer, which already exist.
Nope, it's for the utility connection. So let me show you where these areas are. So it's for the utility connection coming in over here. So this is the connection to the sewer, and this is for the building envelope around the house that's encroaching into the 50-foot no touch. The proposed driveway expansion is outside of the 50-foot, so that is not part of the waiver. Just the house footprint and the utility connection. Okay,
And
so
can I, what would be the percentage of encroachment of the house envelope, building envelope?
it was 9%, right, Mark?
9.
The overall proposed buffer zone alteration, I believe, was 9. And they're proposing a pretty significant mitigation package with this.
Yeah, if you want some actual numbers, I mean, we're proposing permanent new impact of only about 2,690 square feet and total mitigation of 33,756 square feet.
Aaron, is this question a would you consider question like the last one, or meaning like the previous application, or is this full thumbs up or full thumbs down?
It says consider.
Consider.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just trying to get a gauge right now for where the commission stands with the waiver.
So if you're comfortable considering, that's a yes. If you're not comfortable considering, it's a no. Is that
correct?
That's what we're doing. Okay.
Yes.
If you're comfortable considering a waiver of the 50-foot BVW, raise your hand. That's all of us. So on the 50-foot, we're all willing to consider it.
Okay, so it sounds like you're uncomfortable with the encroachment on the isolated wetland, but you're comfortable with the encroachment on the BVW past the 50-foot no touch. Okay. That is extremely helpful.
Meaning comfortable considering it, right?
Yeah, comfortable considering it. Yes. Yep. Based on the mitigation that's proposed and stuff. Yeah, no, that's very helpful. Okay, interesting. So that's really interesting guidance for the applicant as well to consider. Okay. So I think the next question is continuation, really. Like, do we, considering the issues with the delineation, considering the issues with the waiver number 1, the commission was pretty unanimous, not wanting encroachment in the 100-foot to isolated wetlands. Mark, do you want to continue to the 14th and kind of try to figure out the next steps before that hearing?
Yeah, I'd like to continue as early as, yeah, let's continue to the 14th.
Okay. All right, so I will queue up that motion on our agenda so that we can keep it moving.
I think the motion would be moved to continue the public hearing for DEP number 089-0766 to January, what's the date again? January
14th,
14th at,
7:20.
there you go. There's your motion.
So moved.
I second.
Bruce with a motion, and was
No,
it
it was
Rachel with a
Jason.
second? Oh, it was Jason, sorry. And who second?
Rachel,
Rachel with a second. Okay, Rachel?
aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Bruce?
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So we'll be seeing you in a few weeks there, Mark. Hope you have a good end of the year.
Thank you, too.
Thanks for your presentation.
Okay.
And now we go to other business.
Yes.
So requests for certificates of compliance.
We have the presentations first.
Oh, we do.
Yeah, the informal presentations. We have Bucky Sparkle and then Darcy from Beacon. Do you want me to pull Bucky in to have him go now? Okay.
Yeah, they've been waiting for a while.
Yeah.
Waiting, but still here. Good evening.
Thanks, Bucky, for your wait. You've been patient. Good
I
evening.
don't have to do this every other Wednesday. But I understand it's late, and this is not the first time this has been in front of the commission, so I'll be as quick as I can. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bucky Sparkle. I'm a civil engineer, and I am representing the Amherst Community Land Trust in trying to do two things on a piece of property at 174 Amity Street, the existing building. They want to convert that from, I think it was sort of a hodgepodge of apartments on the inside to 3 standalone affordable units. And then with the additional frontage and area on the property, put in a compact duplex and 2 parking spaces, also affordable housing. And this property is located about 400 feet or less from the primary intersection in town, Amity Street, Pleasant Street. And because I know there's some people who haven't heard the previous presentation, so the nutshell is, let me bring up a visual here. Sharing the plan that I have submitted. What I will talk about here, and I'll zoom in just a little bit. Amity Street is on the north. And this is a dentist's office. Back around 93, they built a driveway, which turns out to be encroaching, but that's not a commission issue. And they have their roof water, they have the sidewalk water, their driveway water. It all is funneled down into a pavement flume, and it's dumped onto the backyard of this property. And that's been happening now for a couple of decades, and that's how it is. Obviously, these days that would be a highly illegal stormwater discharge in a variety of ways. However, the owner who's been renting for at least 40 years wasn't worried about it. It wasn't disturbing them. They didn't live there. Unfortunately, what has happened is because this is vegetated and there's heavy tree canopy and there's a fence that runs along the back property line, debris and leaves, etc., have built up along the fence and created a dam. And then with that effect, that means that a puddle starts to form, and you do that for enough decades, and we get hydric soils and wetland vegetation. So we have, seems to be the theme of tonight's meeting, an isolated wetland right in the middle of downtown Amherst, which was probably not considered, and I could be wrong, but probably not considered strongly by commissioners who were writing the bylaw to put a very strong no disturb area and some of the buffer zone requirements, which are sound rules. But in the middle of the most urban part of town, these are highly problematic situations. So that's the encapsulation of what we're trying to do. Now, was there a question? I'm sorry. All right. Last time we were here, we had the wetland flagged, but we didn't have it surveyed. So we have a survey now. We have the wetland delineated. We have the real buffer zones and have a good understanding of what the project is and the impacts it would have. Really quick, existing parking lot, existing building, want to put on a little shed. The darker areas are new. This is the duplex with the 2 required parking spaces, a little bit of sidewalk. But this is the 100-foot buffer, which of course wraps around to many other properties. And this is the 50-foot buffer. And last time we were here, we were asking, what are the chances we might be able to move through the commission with this project? We don't have any real problems with the planning board or ZBA, but from a regulatory standpoint, this commission, would require waivers. Again, it seems to be a theme of tonight's meeting. So we've done a little more work, cleaned up our drawings, calculated some areas, but I think it's pretty obvious that let's start back at the wetland zone. So in BVW, nobody wants to touch that. There is a section of a few hundred square feet of Japanese knotweed, which is continuing to expand as it does. Right there. There are also a couple of debris piles and structures and platforms, tires and bicycles and garbage back there that we would like to get out of the 0 to 50-foot buffer. From the 50 to 100-foot buffer, there's already, we have certain, rules about 20% disturbance. Already the existing infrastructure, the parking, the buildings, the sidewalk, that's 20% disturbance right there. And in order to put in another building, do a little bit of grading, some stormwater, now we're talking like 90% of that buffer is going to be disturbed. Right here in downtown Amherst. So that is the condensed version of this. And tonight I've seen a few straw polls and some deliberation. So again, this is sort of a situation where we are looking to take the temperature of the board. Amherst Community Land Trust has invested some thousands of dollars in this, but not nearly what it would be to complete the application and go through a regulatory process with multiple boards. So there's a lot of money on the table at this point, and we are, looking to get some feedback here. So I think at this point, I'd love to hear questions and comments and whatever feedback we can get as to, would waivers of this significance be plausible, considering, the location, the history of the wetland. When the fence rots out, there won't be a dam there anymore. The wetland's going to drain out and dry up probably anyway. We can probably do some stormwater mitigation and reduce some of the pollution and capture some of the, what is now not illegal discharge. So yeah, I'd love to hear from the commission.
Thanks, Bucky. We have a few people ready to talk. So Aaron, let's start with Aaron.
Just wanted to clarify, Bucky, did you say 90% of the 50 to 100-foot buffer on the property?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That is pretty much everything except this little corner. We have a stormwater management system that's not sized. This is sort of an assumption. But this whole area would end up being graded and part of the construction zone. So that would all be disturbed by equipment. Also, we're likely to put a dry well here. And then the building and the associated grading around there. So as you can see, it would be pretty much the entirety of the buffer zone from 50 to 100 feet.
Thanks, Bucky. Jason?
Yeah, thanks, Andre. Thanks, Bucky. Given that the drainage onto the lot should not have ever happened in the first place, from the neighboring lot, if that drainage were to cease, would this wetland, you mentioned the fence rotting out and the wetland then draining, being able to drain, if that runoff were to cease, would this wetland exist?
If the fence weren't there, I think that would be the death knell for the wetland. And the fence is quite rotted and starting to fail in certain places. However, there's still, the reality is, if we could reroute the neighbor's stormwater, there is still, a sidewalk, there's roof area, all of this green space. If you follow the contours, really does go. There is a local area. It's the grade keeps dropping. It's all on a slope. This is, this is in the middle of a slope, but on this property, this is sort of the local low spot. So we're still going to send water there. But it's, mostly from, tree canopy and grass. I don't know that, if you don't have a yard, the neighbor doesn't have wetland, right here, there's no wetland. So I guess with that being the case, the hydrology is going to be identical here and here once the fence is removed.
And is the fence going to be removed?
Well, it's in the buffer zone, so that wasn't our intention. That although if nothing is done to that fence, if I can bring up some pictures, but the fence is not long for this world.
So nature will remove it one way or the other.
That seems to be how it's going to go.
Okay. So then, as far as the 50 to 100 foot is concerned, is this layout like, is this the only layout that fits? Can you put those 2 parking spots next to, the other 8 spots and bump the duplexes forward?
Potentially, and unfortunately, our architect happens to be on the planning board, has a meeting tonight. So that is sort of an architect question. What I will say is that what we're trying to do is preserve, right now, those parking in between some large trees. One of them is probably not going to survive the process, but we'd love to save the poplar tree up here. So getting more parking, I don't know if that is at all plausible. Maybe if we take out the poplar tree, we could jam it up front. I know the architect would, as part of the Historic District Commission, we're surrounded by Historic District Commission on this site. So I know we're putting parking up here already, but it gets even tighter. Actually, let me take that back. There is a rule that you can't park within 8 feet of a building. So there's no way we can get parking up here. And we can't really keep coming back this way with additional parking.
Are you able to get relief from not having like you mentioned, this is in downtown, trying to redevelop a lot or put like the notion that you have to have those 2 parking spots to me is silly, frankly, but
that is absolutely worth trying to investigate. It is permit parking in the area, but if you're a resident, that is plausible. I do know that because this is for affordable housing, they are trying to minimize any burden upon the residents. So some people having to pay annually for that permit is a minor burden. But considering the location and the potential benefit for anybody who lives there and access to, schools and jobs, this is something worth pursuing. So it sounds like if we can drag this duplex building further from the resource area, at least one member of the commission would look a little more favorably upon this.
Yes, and because that the other building is existing and the parking is existing, correct?
Yes.
So that's already there. That's not disturbance because it's existing disturbance, I'll say. It's not new.
Yeah, my understanding was, I mean, just technically that the rule was 20% total existing and proposed. Am I interpreting that wrong?
No, that's right.
Okay.
No, yeah.
Just making sure I understand. But yes, in effect, a third of this area, well, 20% of this area right now is covered in a parking lot and a building.
All right. Thanks again,
The end
Bucky.
result would be another 20%, but the short-term disturbance would be larger.
All right, Bruce.
In the spirit of thinking about alternatives, what happens if the duplex becomes a oneplex and it simply gets built the way it is, except that duplex unit 2 doesn't exist?
And this is a point where I also wish the architect were here. They were really hoping to get 6 units on this property. They believe that it is financially viable for them to do 5 units. That is turning it into a 4-unit question. So I am not sure if the dollars make sense and the funding makes sense to do an affordable housing project if they can only get one more building, one more unit. So I will ask the question.
Well, I was seeing it this is an informal discussion and I just tried to think of the options. So
that's great. Yes, this is, and that gives me something to talk to the client about. And what development's a risky game. All the easy lots have been developed. So, what kind of skin do they have in the game here? What kind of funding can they get?
Okay. Thanks. Rachel? We still can't hear you. Sorry. Bruce, your hands up.
I keep doing this. Yeah, Bucky, thanks for the informal conversation. Question for you: have you looked at the soils at all?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
They're going to be just fine for. I think we ended up with mostly sands and loamy sands. Test field data. Yeah. There's my test. There we go. So we have loamy sand. So loamy sand for the test hole. We did one test hole. And then sand and gravel, 33 to 54 inches, and then back to sandy loam. So we get into a loam after 54 inches. But as far as this is where the dry well would be. So I did some testing down there.
But how deep did the sandy loam go?
I stopped digging at 65 inches.
Okay.
So that was what we did, which was suitable for the type of small. We're just going to gather some roof water into a dry well.
And high groundwater was.
Let's see, Centigrade matrix tenure 4:1 moist. So I might have that in another. Move that over there. Yeah. Oh, redox 53 inches. There we are.
So would we need that 2-foot separation between high groundwater for any stormwater structure?
Ideally, yep. And I don't know what final grade is going to be in that area. And the dry well out would probably be one of the shallow, more like a leaching chamber instead of the deeper cylindrical ones.
Okay.
Carol, thanks, Rachel.
So I have a question about stormwater management. And I'm wondering what Erin thought about that.
Just in general with a project like this? Is that the question?
Yeah, with this
Yeah.
project.
I mean, I think the devil's in the details. To be honest, I think Rachel's questions really are driving that question hard. I so I guess where my mind goes with that is the existing outfall coming in from the neighbor's property, because they're not just dealing with their own stormwater, they're dealing with the neighbor's stormwater as well. And so that is a real thing that concerns me about this, and particularly, and I'm just gonna go there because Bucky said it, like the stormwater is going to be directed towards this wetland. So my concern is, you know, uh, design, grades, making sure we have adequate separation, making sure we have a structure that's going to be able to handle the stormwater on the site. And, you know, I think that there are things that could be done to potentially reduce this wetland from being here because of the inadequate stormwater from the property that's up gradient. And I would highly encourage, as I have since day one, encourage this applicant to pursue that relief with the neighboring landowner for their benefit of this wetland not continuing to grow, but also for the benefit of water quality in general, and because they're trying to do something here. I think it's a complicated question. I think we need more information, but I think it's a challenging site, and I think it's going to become more challenging the more impervious we add to it.
What I was wondering. So are you saying that the neighbor is involved, or try to involve the neighbor in taking care of this problem and not contributing to it?
Yeah, they shouldn't be dumping their stormwater onto these
Right.
folks' property. They should be treating it on their own property. And so that has been the primary thing that I've discussed with this project proponent from the first day they walked in to talk to me, was I would try to have a serious conversation there.
Yeah,
Good points.
we're trying to work with them to a degree. There's really only so much that can be done with that much impervious area coming at us. And of course, anything that would be done would all be within the 50-foot buffer zone. We could potentially direct to other places, maybe put up a curb and keep it in their parking lot. I'm not sure what happens at the bottom end of their parking lot, and they do have quite a bit of impervious area down there.
Well, they could install some catch basins, connect it to town water and sewer. Or not, well, not water and sewer, excuse me, town stormwater system. I think there are potential alternatives. I realize they're invasive,
I know that
but
the town system is uphill, unfortunately, of the neighbor's impervious area. So whatever they would do would be on the back end. So this is the town's map. So back here, potentially, you can see this red line is roughly the 100-foot buffer affiliated. It's a little rough, as you can see, but
I can't see your line there. If
Oh,
you're pointing to something,
the
Bucky,
red
it's
line
not
doesn't
moving.
come. Do you see the red circle?
I don't see anything other
Oh,
than
you
your
know
site
what?
plan.
It's because I am sharing according to my application and not my screen. So let me go right to my screen. There. How about that? Does that look like your town now?
Yes.
All right. I'm so sorry. So yeah, the large red circle is roughly the 100-foot buffer, and the town storm drain is up here. But once you get south of here, you're already too far below the storm drain. So all of this, right now it drains to here and then drains through this person's yard and then drains through this yard. Maybe we could encapsulate it and put something down here. And I see we as a joint effort, because if I were this landowner, I wouldn't spend a dime to help my neighbor. We're talking about, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 on, easily.
So I have a suggestion here, Bucky. I think we should talk offline just
Yeah.
as staff
Mhm.
in the office because it's getting really late and we have a lot of other business tonight, but I think there are things we could talk about, you and I, and potentially the proponent to try to brainstorm on some of this stuff. But unless the commission has other input they want to give on your proposal.
Which, yeah, I would.
I have one last thing to say, Bucky, and that is that I would like to see more, get more information. I would like to take a look at the spot, the wetland in the back, and so that's my my view. I don't feel like I've got enough, but when you're thinking about, if you're thinking about those straw polls that we took earlier, I would be willing to consider, but don't have enough information if you want
Okay.
my view. But I think that's it for us for tonight, Bucky. I appreciate your presentation, and I hope that's a bit that it's helpful for you to get a little more guidance there.
It does identify a few things, and now we have a few more talking points. So we'll have more internal discussion offline. Thank you very much for your time on a very busy night, and I'll check in with you on some other time on another project.
All right, Bucky. We'll see you
Thanks,
again.
Bucky.
Thanks.
Thank you. Take care.
So we're moving from here to Certificate of Compliance, 169 Meadow Street. Is that right, or are we? Do we have another presentation?
We have another presentation.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm gonna bring in Adrian and Darcy.
Hi there.
Hello, Darcy.
Hi. Okay, commissioners.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And
Been
hello, Adrian.
quite a night.
Yeah. Welcome. You're both on.
I need the addresses.
Yep. So if you don't mind each just giving us your addresses or the address of or the company you're working with.
I see the GCA.
Yep.
Sure. I'm Darcy Jameson, Vice President of Development with Beacon Communities. We're a Boston-based affordable housing developer located at 2 Center Plaza in Boston.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'm Adrian Dunk with GZA Geoenvironmental, based out of Springfield, Mass. Do you need the full address?
No, thank you.
Okay, great.
All right. So please start your presentation. We'll be all ears for you.
Okay, thank you very much. So just again, Darcy Jameson. Some of you may know Beacon Communities because we are the owner of Rolling Green Apartments and we were the developers of North Square at the Mill District. In particular, I worked on that project. We are, I'm going to screen share. Do I have, yes, I have screen sharing capacity. There we go. Can you guys all see that?
Yeah.
So, Adrian and I are here tonight to have a very informal, informational presentation. Beacon is very preliminarily starting to look at a new development opportunity in North Amherst. And we are just starting to sort of shop around in the community talking about this potential opportunity. The opportunity is really growing out of the Amherst's master plan for North Amherst that was done, I don't know, probably about 10 or so years ago, looking at new opportunities to create housing, connectivity, new town center. So we've had an opportunity to look at a site located at 246 Montague Road. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the Mill District. You have Sunderland Road, Montague Road, and there is a 25-acre parcel located right here. We've had preliminary conversations with the seller and starting to think about, is there an opportunity for us to help advance the town's master plan of creating more housing and connectivity in North Amherst? Just very high level. When we originally started to look at opportunities, we were looking at, would there be an opportunity to do some apartments, a couple of hundred apartments along Sunderland Road, and perhaps a similar size affordable housing development for both of these along Montague Road. I'm backing up to sort of our initial look a few months ago, because as we started to really study the natural resources in the area and think about this site, and Adrian will talk about this more, there are a lot of wetlands and a lot of natural resources that, as we worked through this, thought we should really be stepping back from some of these and seeing if we can respect the natural environment a little bit more in this area. This area of the site has already been disturbed. There's a house, there's a barn, there's a driveway. So very high level, we're thinking through the opportunity to use the existing driveway. Got wetlands this direction, wetlands this way. Adrian will talk about that. A new construction building, 140, 150 apartments with parking and associated amenities. 100% electric, passive house, all the good sustainability stuff. I know that's not the purview of the commission, but I do like to sort of share that that would be the direction that we would be moving forward. Adrian will talk more about this with regards to the Conservation Commission, but we did map the wetlands, both the state wetlands and federal, state, and local. So the goal of tonight is really just to provide some very preliminary information about what we are starting to think about as a possible development opportunity. We're not even looking for a straw poll. Happy to hear your thoughts. But I will let Adrian just share a few more details and keep it tight tonight.
Great. Thanks, Darcy. There's some views along the road, but okay, here's our site. As Darcy said, GZA did a full delineation back when we were considering the entire parcel. So we did delineate on the full 25 acres. And there are, there's a lot of lines and colors going on in this site. So I'll just give a high level overview. There's Eastman Brook comes in under Route 63. It flows southwest across the site, goes off site, and then flows back through the middle of the property. And it's a perennial river, so it has the riverfront area. And it also has a 100-year floodplain, so a bordering land subject to flooding. The bright green line with teeth pointing inward is the limit of bordering vegetated wetlands. So most of that southwest corner is bordering vegetated wetlands. Most of the center of the property along Eastman Brook, which here is on the western limit of the proposed conceptual development, that's bordering vegetated wetlands. And then there's two isolated vegetated wetlands, and they're kind of a teal line with teeth.
And you see my cursor?
Yes. So there's
Okay,
one
great.
west of the proposed development and then one north, kind of squeezed between, squeezing the existing entry to the site. So to just kind of run through, I love saying this, there's no proposed alteration to the bordering vegetated wetlands. There's no proposed alteration to the bordering land subject to flooding. So check, check. We love that. The riverfront area within the proposed parcel, it would be some redevelopment from the driveway, the site entrance, but the existing house and yard would be restored, and then other great natives planted along Montague Road. We are investigating the opportunity to add sidewalk extending from Pulpit Hill Road up to the property, and also implementing or extending the sewer. So those would be in the state right of way. The property, would comply with the state stormwater standards, and there'd be, native species planted. Everywhere there's going to be plantings and other opportunities for restoration on site. So under the State Wetlands Protection Act, pretty great opportunity, and it's been scaled back to avoid a lot of impacts to resources, which is fantastic. In terms of the Amherst Wetlands Protection Bylaw, this project is proposed as affordable housing and will be pursuing a comprehensive permit with the Zoning Board of Appeals. So we will be requesting to waive the local bylaw, but we are seeking to meet the spirit of the bylaw and make a good faith effort to respect it, to the extent practicable. So that said, the two isolated vegetated wetlands, no impact to the limit of the wetlands themselves. They are not vernal pools, based off our observation of the topography and the vegetation in them. They are wetlands, but they don't hold standing water, so they're not vernal pools. There's likely going to be a need for a little bit of construction within the 50-foot no touch, some temporary construction access, particularly at the site entrance, to avoid the riverfront area. And also there's a really steep slope there, so just to keep everybody safe and away from that slope. But then no, long term, no work in those areas and no development in those areas. And also observing no buildings in the 75-foot no touch. And we will say most of the property is used as agriculture now. It's currently hayed. Looking at the aerial imagery, there's intermittently cattle in the IVWs. So that will cease and the property will be allowed to naturalize and revegetate. So like we said, trying to meet the spirit and the intent of the bylaw. Our process is that this is a preliminary presentation here today. There are a few more items to check and make sure that this project is likely to move forward. But then we would be submitting an ANRAD to the Conservation Commission to confirm the boundaries of the wetlands on site before additional site design move forward, before grading, and all that effort was put in. We'd like to confirm the wetland boundaries, then advance the project design. Then we would be moving into our state and local permitting. So we would anticipate coming before this board officially twice in the process.
Thanks, Adrian. I do just want to stress a few of the things that Adrian said, which is we went from sort of looking at the larger 25-acre parcel, understanding the wetlands, most of it's not developable, and really trying to focus development in an area that has been disturbed. This is not just to be really clear, not a final site plan. There's a long way to go here with starting to just explore this as a development opportunity. But this is conceptual and really meant to share with the commission that we have been taking the land use issues and regulations very seriously and starting to really study them early in our process. I think in the spirit of the time, we'll stop there. And the goal tonight, again, was just to keep this very tight and just informational. Aaron, I don't know if you want to add anything from our conversations or... You're on mute.
Yeah. Thank you, Darcy, and thank you, Adrian. Aaron, you're still muted.
You're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, no, just appreciate the iterative process that we're going through, and that the resource area constraints are being considered by the applicant in this situation.
Well, thanks again. if there are any questions, go ahead and ask them. Let's be brief about it, though. Bruce, go ahead.
Not a question. Just as a starting point, the bullet on the list that said waive the local bylaw, as a starting point, I'm pretty uncomfortable with that as a starting point. So I'd want to see alternatives that didn't do that.
That's a fair comment. That was really meant to sort of note that we would be going through the comprehensive permit Chapter 40B process. We would have the opportunity to request a waiver, but we certainly want to be working closely with the commission to try and respect the bylaws, look at the alternatives, and mutually agree on the direction we're heading.
Thanks, Darcy.
Yeah. So that's a good comment. Maybe we put that out there a little too directly. That wasn't quite the intent. But we also wanted to be transparent about how we were thinking about the project.
And I'm just saying, let's get it out there now and
yeah,
talk about the alternatives that are available.
That too. Thanks again. Tina?
I just want to comment that is mostly prime farmland soil, so it'd be nice to see as much of the property stay in farming as possible.
Yeah. So we are, if this project moves forward, we would be acquiring, let me just back up a slide. We would be acquiring what's more or less outlined in the white dotted line, and the balance of the site would be remaining under its current ownership, and I would anticipate under its current use, which is agriculture.
All right. Any other questions? It looks like a really interesting project there, and I do see that you're making some good efforts there to stay within the wetlands and Amherst town boundaries. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward to seeing more from you when you do package it and move it forward.
Thank you. Any other questions, or we'll sign off and wish everyone a happy holiday season.
All right. Well, thanks. Any other questions before we say goodbye? No. Well, have a good season, and we'll see you around.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and now we can look for the certificate of compliance request for 169 Meadow Street. Is that what we're going to next there?
Sure. I mean, how's everybody doing? Let's check in. Everybody really need to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
still alive.
Yeah, you're still alive. Okay, so if we need to table the certificates of compliance, we can do that. It's late, it's 10:30. If the commission would like to do that, we can do that at the next meeting. The one thing that I would just like to check in on is the fact that we have a request. It's in my report to reduce the inspection schedule for some of the monitoring reports. So on 5 separate projects, which would be the 3 DPW projects, as well as the Amherst High School track and the Eversource College Street substation project. I'm fine with them going from a weekly inspection to a monthly inspection. That's really a commission decision. I would only recommend it in the instance that if freezing or snow-covered conditions cease in the course of the season, that they come back to a weekly monitoring schedule. If we have a thaw and then they have to go back to weekly. So that's the one thing I would want to check with the commission on, because those are sort of time sensitive. But the certificates of compliance, I think my recommendations are going to stand. And if the commission is feeling like we need to table those, that's completely fine.
I think we should.
Okay.
I can, I think we can all sit here and work through them. But I think it's better that I think it's been a long day.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with any of those with letting letting the reports slide until it's time that there will be changes, so to speak.
Okay.
So I'm with you on that.
I second that.
Okay.
Great.
So
is that the general consensus? Yeah.
I generally, but we're gonna get rain and it's gonna be 56 degrees supposedly.
I know.
So in those instances, you're saying then that is it monthly except or within 24 hours after a quarter inch of rain?
Yeah, exactly. So if it's a freezing condition with snow cover, then they can be on a monthly schedule. But if we're getting a thaw, then they're back to weekly. So that's the condition of them moving to, if they're shifting. So
Is that thaw defined? That's my question is a thaw, because if it rains right
yeah,
now with the amount of snow that's on the ground, potentially in some areas, and you get a quarter of an inch of rain, you're going to get a lot of runoff,
right,
especially if
right,
it's 56 degrees.
right. Well, I would say 56 degrees would count as a thaw.
Right.
So,
But if it's 40 degrees and it rains,
Which could be this week.
yeah.
is
So
that
I think we're
a
talking
thaw as
freezing
well?
in the instance of freezing conditions with snow cover. So if it's things are thawing out, if we're going above freezing, then they're going to be back on their weekly inspection schedule.
Okay.
Mhm.
And you'll be defining that for them?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes, I will. Yep.
Okay. Great. Bruce.
That's exactly what we need, you see. And Aaron's going to tell them when they have to go out there and when they don't. And then we'll have the information we need.
Yes.
There we go. Thanks, Bruce. Anyone else? So we don't need to vote on that, right, Aaron? I think we're all in.
No.
There's a general consensus that we're all in agreement.
Yes.
So is there any? So now with this, the next thing we're going to do is just. Are there any comments from the public that haven't been addressed yet? You see any hands up?
I don't see any.
Any topics that we couldn't have reasonably anticipated in the last 48 hours?
There are, but none of them are so urgent that they need to be discussed tonight.
Well, thanks for that answer. Well, with that, we're looking for a motion.
I move that we adjourn.
Thank you.
A second.
And thank you. And was that Tina?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to recognize your voice soon. All right. So that's Jason with a move to adjourn and Tina with a second. Tina.
Aye.
Rachel.
Aye.
Carol.
Aye.
Bruce.
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so it's unanimous.
Good job, guys. That was a tough one. They're not all like this, I promise.
Yeah, good job, everyone. Yeah,
Do
definitely.
you ever consider taking a break in a 3.5 hour meeting?
You should absolutely take a break. Just get up and take
Yeah.
a break.
And
Do what you need to do.
Don't worry about